Hi and welcome to Debunk File. My name is Sep and good lord, it's been forever since I've said that. This channel has been around for almost 6 years now, and it's always a ton of fun to look back at old videos and wonder just absolutely what was going through our heads at the time. So we present to you the entirety of our 2018 run, the first year of Debunk File. To make this stand out from just being any other algorithm compilation video, we decided to have a little more intros explaining just exactly what we were thinking when making some of these. We were going to have the little creator commentary beforehand, but as a note, these videos are almost 6 years old, and at the time, Jiff and I were still in high school and we're only 15 years old, so keep that in mind when watching some of these. So without further ado, let's just get into Debunk File Season 1. If you've been here for a while, you know the story behind this one, but for the sake of this video, we'll explain it one more time. This is the story of how I got the idea for Freddie Freaker. In my freshman year of high school, my friend had showed me the Oni Plays Freddie Freaker meme videos. I of course thought they were funny, but I couldn't find any good compiled information on Freddie on YouTube. I had just watched Ahoy's phenomenal Polybius video and talked with Jiff about creating something similar, but with the Party Freak, and the rest is pretty much history. The aesthetics for the channel were a mix of tech-noir, pixelated backgrounds, and the 80s arcade that was all over Ahoy's video. I also decided to put on a deeper voice. I was only 15 at the time and wanted something creepy and monotone for the videos. It also made them a lot more fun to record, as it felt like I was playing a character instead of just reading a script. Of course, over the years, my voice did just get deeper, but I kept the inflection and it still makes narrating a ton of fun. It was Jiff and I's first time doing YouTube together. We had separate channels in the past, and this was truly to be our last hurrah on YouTube. And somehow it worked out, and here we are all these years later.
As Sep said, at the time we both had separate channels and never made anything like this. For me, I had only ever had gaming channels, and so editing something like this was a huge challenge at the time, and of course wound up changing everything for me. Despite this one being a first, I genuinely think I did a pretty good job, and I think the stuff I did aged pretty well, all things considered.
Hi, and welcome to Debunk File. My name is Sep, and today we are going to be talking about the infamous Freddie Freaker. Now, Freddie Freaker is a very controversial topic, with questions ranging from who, what, when, where, why, and how, and today I hope to answer those. To start off, let's look at the commercial.
It's the freak phone, and here's the party freak, Freddie Freaker, dance new sensation.
Released during the 1980s, rumored 1987 but not confirmed, it was a hotline number telling you to call the party freak at 1-900-490-FREAK, which already raises the subject of, that's too many numbers to actually call anyone, and you're right, it totally is. The very few people who actually recall calling the hotline said they were greeted with a strange voice, some ominous breathing, and then dial tone. Some others said it was a joke hotline, but I'm going to go with the few first-hand interactions. But that's right, Freddie himself hangs up on you. Now that isn't completely confirmed, most of the information on the freak is just first-hand accounts and no real evidence, but right now I'm going to talk about the real stuff. The only other piece of media to ever have Freddie's name and likeness is a simple white t-shirt with Freddie, some balloons, confetti, and party hats. But there's something extremely odd about this shirt. The top seems blurred, almost photoshopped, and that text seems weirdly out of place and looks digitally put there as well. So I'm going to take a big jump here and say the shirt is real, well at least the lower half. The top is definitely blurred out and the text is definitely not the original writing. There was also a hoodie planned, but that's all it was. Planned, no pictures or visual evidence. So since we have the shirt out of the way, let's talk about the toys that were rumored to come out alongside the commercial. The toys were as followed: Freddie Freaker, a fatter blue Freddie, his brother, a green Freddie, his friend, and a pink girly Freddie, his girlfriend. Prototypes are rumored to exist, but once again there is no actual visual evidence of that, but seeing that there was an official Freaker t-shirt, a toy line wouldn't be as far-fetched. Now we've talked about merchandising, but let's actually talk about the behind the scenes. The two companies mentioned were LA Toys and Star Wars Entertainment. It's tough to say who did what in the process of making the commercial and merchandise, because both specialize in movie props and puppeteering. So figuring out that LA Toys made the Freaker merchandise and Star Wars Entertainment was responsible for the physical Freddie Freaker, a man by the name of Patrick Simmons, under the persona of Patrick Rom Sim, commented on a YouTube video stating he was the one who designed Freddie, and that the puppet's arms could actually bend and have no idea why they were left T-posing. But who is this Patrick Rom Sim? Well, if you take a look at his YouTube channel, you will see some very stranger horror-related content, mostly time-lapse drawings and a few scary stories. Really anyone could say they designed Freddie, but there's absolutely no real evidence to support that this guy designed the freak. He later was tracked down by a site called Break.com, in which they interviewed him. He states he was called on after working on special effects for Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th Part 7 to design a puppet for the hotline, and he quote-unquote did. Freddie Freaker, the foam puppet, was born with articulated arms, which I mentioned earlier, and a very Gremlin-esque design, which Simmons states was intentional as the film Gremlins was very popular at the time. So for all Simmons has said was just things anyone has read the wiki could come up with, he's not giving the best argument. He was then asked whether the Freak Phone hotline was for kids or not. Simmons said he remembers it being for MTV, so he thinks the audience would be college age. Another strange thing is Simmons constantly said that he just recently saw the commercial years after its first premiere, which makes no sense. If you made a full articulated puppet, you'd want to see it on TV. No one's gonna take the paycheck and not see what happened to your creation. Simmons makes one very, very strong point at the end. The interviewer asks if Simmons has any pictures of the puppet, and he replies with a surprising yes. Simmons has 2 very high quality pictures of Freddy, and okay, cool new information on the freak, but another nitpicky question comes to mind. Why were those pictures so high quality? He says they were taken personally right before he handed them into Star West Entertainment, but if those pictures were taken in the 80s, it would have had to been a lower quality. There's always the argument of they were digitally enhanced, which could also be true. These 2 pictures honestly justify all of Simmons' other bullcrap, but I still need to find more on this party freak. Facebook, my last hope. Freddie Freaker actually has a quote-unquote official Facebook page seemingly run by former CEO of LA Toys, Kevin Leto. The page is fairly lackluster and has only a few images of Freddy and of FreddyFreaker.com, which has absolutely nothing to do with the mystery. It just has the shirt I mentioned earlier and a link to the titular Facebook. There is another Facebook. Original Freddie Freaker, run by who else but Patrick Simmons. Now this Facebook completely reopens up the case about Simmons making Freddy. He has some art to remake Freddy, and as of very recently, January 2nd, Simmons said, "Expect something very soon for Freddy," which seems awesome, and we may never get an explanation for the original, but maybe Simmons and co can Lazarus Man Freddy and his freak friends back to life. And that's completely possible, because the original copyright for Freddy Freak and the Party Freak expired in 1995 and 96 respectively. Take a further look at FreddyFreaker.com, and you will see Freddie Freaker was recopyrighted in 2018, and since the website is a direct ad for the Facebook page, the one run by LA Toys CEO, so Freddy is seemingly now owned by LA Toys, who owns the Party Freak license. Freddy wasn't the only Freak Phone commercial, as there was another very rare and strange ad with distorted humans saying to call 1-900-490-FREAK, and to get a scary story. So my theory about it being a scary story hotline is true. Now that we debunked what the hotline was for, let's try and figure out who actually made the Freddy puppet. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that Simmons did make the puppet, and that the evidence with the 2 pictures checks out, being that no one had seen these pictures of Freddy, so how would he get them? Now we have the hotline purpose, the creator of the puppet, so what about the previously mentioned behind the scenes and copyright as well? As I said, LA Toys was behind merchandise and Star Wars Entertainment, which Simmons actually worked for, was responsible for the puppet. But what about the airing? Who aired this commercial? I'm gonna also say that Star West was responsible for the airing of the commercial on MTV, which wasn't a kid-friendly station, also going back to it was a hotline for young adults. So I think that's it. The mystery of Freddie Freaker was a strange ad, airing only one time on MTV, advertising scary stories for college-aged kids. A toy line, some shirts, and a hoodie were a money grab to capitalize on Freddy's success, sort of like other ads like the Kool-Aid Man and the Noid. The puppet was created by a small special effects guy, Patrick Simmons, working on stuff like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. But alas, MTV's short-lived freak scared his way into our lives and is never to be forgotten. I'm gonna call the file undetermined. There's still so much I want to know about Freddy, but sadly we may never get a full story.
With the explosion and love of our first video, Jiff and I were sort of blindsided. Freddy was only really supposed to be just one cool experimental video to put out there, and with all the attention it garnered, we knew we couldn't stop there and got to work looking for the next topic. We originally were going to do another strange commercial. I'm sure most of you who languish on the internet like we do have seen it. The Philadelphia ice cream brand Little Baby's Ice Cream. This commercial is still terrifying, and I'd always been in love with how creepy it was. After careful consideration, we genuinely weren't sure what we could debunk in that commercial, so for our second video, we went with an internet classic, Sad Satan. This topic was more of a way to take something popular, but we genuinely gave it a fair shot for being such a short and very speculative debunk.
For me, this one wasn't as groundbreaking, as for the most part I just continued based on what I did last time, but it was my first ever time trying to use plugins, which was definitely a big deal.
Sad Satan, the infamous deep web horror game, first discovered in 2015 by a YouTube channel by the name of Obscure Horror Corner. He's most known for playing obscure horror games such as Death Forest and Twilight Syndrome, but most notably Sad Satan, which horrifyingly enough was his last video. Now, where did Obscure find Sad Satan? Well, in an interview with Kotaku, Obscure said he found out about the game from an anonymous subscriber who had found it on the deep web. Now, for those who don't know, the deep web is the darker 95% of the actual internet, hidden behind web browsers like Tor. Now, this anonymous subscriber said he found it on a forum from a user only known as ZK. A while later, on a 4chan message board, a person claiming to be ZK uploaded Sad Satan. This version, dubbed The Clone, was filled with very illegal images of actual murders and some very questionable images of minors. When people loaded the game on their computer, the computer was either unresponsive or shut down entirely. What I want to know is, where did the real ZK find the game? Well, no one actually knows. The real mysterious Sad Satan may not actually exist. A big question of the mystery is who made the game, and there are many options to choose from. One big one is a sadistic serial killer who put actual murders and screams of his victims in the game. My take on it is a little more sane. I think Obscure Horror Corner actually made Sad Satan. There's so much evidence pointing towards it. If you look at their channel, you'll see their videos before, they were pulling in numbers like 1,000 views per video, and the highest before Sad Satan reaches into the 20,000s. But when he made his first Let's Play about an assumingly haunted game, they blew up. Sad Satan is also known for its strange pictures, but with a little backwards image search, I found that one of the images of a human hiding its head is a picture taken by Roger Ballin, a photographer known for exploring humanity's shadow side, and if Obscure Horror Corner likes obscure horror, I'm sure he'd be familiar with Roger Ballin. Another photo is a picture of previous Prime Minister of Britain, Margaret Thatcher, standing next to a convicted pedophile. The aforementioned screams of victims are just stock screams played backwards. With the disappearance of Obscure Horror Corner, it's hard to confirm they actually made the game, but since Sad Satan did blow up and we haven't seen them since, I'm assuming he took the money and left. I'm going to call this file debunked. It's not all confirmed, like I said before, but it's extremely possible.
This was another video of us grasping at straws. We didn't have a back catalog of ideas like we do these days. This was still all extremely fresh. Something we did and still do now is tackling stuff that pretty much nobody has made a video on, and what better to cover than a very local urban legend in a small town in Ohio. It was a personal mystery because my family would take me there when I was a kid and I was always terrified, so we decided to shed some light on something so under talked about on the internet as a whole.
This video was the first time where I ever made an official appearance and talked, but outside of that, I began leaning farther into a glitchy editing style that was starting to naturally happen and become a theme for us.
Screaming Mimi Bridge is a so-called haunted bridge in rural Tiffin, Ohio. The bridge is said to host a banshee, a screaming female ghost, and you can summon her by doing some very specific things which I'll get into later. But who is this banshee and why does she haunt this bridge? Well, legend has it that Mimi, the ghost, had a child before marriage, and the locals didn't like that, so they forced her to kill the baby before they killed her. She was driven mad and killed herself on this bridge. Another possible reason why she lingers around is on her wedding day, her husband killed her to inherit her fortune and threw her body over the bridge. Summoning the Screaming Spectre isn't going to be hard. At the midnight hours from 12 to 12:59, drive your car up to the bridge and park your vehicle, then flash your headlights and you should be able to hear the scream of a tortured soul. But is the legend of Screaming Mimi Bridge real? Of course not. I've actually done it myself. I've been up to Tiffin, Ohio countless times and do the ritual of summoning Mimi every year, and each time I'm let down. Now I believe the stories that accompany the legend. Sure, why not? It can't be far-fetched. The Tiffin locals are quite religious, and it wouldn't be surprising if years ago they forced Mimi to kill her child. I still want to know which story is true, and I really want a real explanation on it, but I'm sad to say we won't get one. Screamy Mimi is a campfire story, and so much stuff gets mistranslated throughout the years. I heard it from my father heard it from his father. It's a big tradition to go down to the bridge, especially in my family. I'm gonna call this file still a mystery. To be honest, we took on this file due to the fact that it interests me and I'd like to share it with you guys.
This was our first video where we weren't just putting something out to keep up with the newfound attention that was coming our way. This is something we genuinely put a lot of time and effort into, and this was the first topic that was chosen by Jiff and had his input in the script more heavy than our first forays. I also vividly remember thinking that this video was going to be pretty long, and it ended up at a whopping 4 minutes. I still hold that this is one of my favorite early days videos.
This one was definitely my favorite topic since Freddy, and as Sep said, it was a topic that we genuinely wanted to do pretty badly, rather than having to think and find something quickly. This one was another one that Sep and I researched while we were actually hanging out together, which is probably the biggest difference between these original days and now. Back then, we wrote so many videos this way, and I definitely think that aspect is responsible for how a ton of these videos feel. But of course today, we simply don't have as much time to do that the way we used to.
This first came to anyone's attention in December 3rd of 2013. A person by the name of Snakebit McGee commented on a video called "Son of an Area 51 Technician." The comment basically says that he is a long-distance hiker and he treks around the Mojave Desert, which has the elusive Area 51 located there. He says that he found a strange cave shaped exactly like a capital M. He also goes on to say that he is a self-proclaimed daredevil and will do anything for a thrill, such as play with venomous snakes for fun, but we'll get more into his courage later. He said as he stepped foot in this M cave, his entire body started to vibrate and shake. He says the farther in he got, the more extreme the vibrations were. He got scared, which is unusual for him, and left in a hurry. A couple days later, he left another comment. This one he goes more in depth in his daredevilish feats, but the most important part of this comment was, he says, "Someday I will go back, and I will bring a weapon with me." Not long after this, he made this 20-minute long hike video attempting to find the cave. We get to see his courageous attitude as he purposely ill-prepares himself for the journey, such as not bringing a compass, bringing only one bottle of water, and only bringing one energy bar for the entire trek. The strange thing is, in this 20-minute video, he does not find the M cave.
Well, I did not find the cave. That is so weird. I mean, I thought for sure I was just gonna be able to find it. I remember it being fairly easy.
A couple months after this, he left his third and final comment, addressing the cave. He states he will be going again hiking solo for 3 days, and if I were to guess, he's going to still not prepare himself adequately. He has been in hundreds of caves in this desert, but the M cave was the only one to scare him. After this, he was never heard from again. There are a number of theories as to what happened to him, the first one being that he died due to not preparing himself correctly. This does make sense, but since it's a flat desert and a search party was sent out not long after, he would have been found dead or alive, no matter what, so we can call this theory debunked. The next theory is a bit more logical. Many people hypothesize that he went missing due to the desert's wildlife. The Mojave is home to a multitude of animals such as mountain lions, vultures, and coyotes. This theory makes sense, but these next two might make this one seem minuscule. This next theory was made by his girlfriend. She left a long comment about a month after his disappearance. She explained more in depth how he treated himself on these hikes because she was with him a lot of the time. She goes on to say that she thinks he went out to commit and succeeded. She said he battled depression for many years and would not seek help. He quit his job a little more than a year before he went missing. He wanted to sell inventions. During that time he ran out of money due to being unsuccessful. She asked him whether or not he was going to kill himself, and he said if he did, she would be okay. And then he also said if he did it, no one would be able to find him. I think that this theory is highly probable because he said no one would be able to find him, and being familiar with the landscape, he would know where to do it without being found. Me and Jiff have a small theory that he faked his to start a new life. It could have happened, but it doesn't have any evidence to back it up. It's just a possibility. This next theory will connect to the vibration he felt inside the cave. Being that Area 51 and the military base are in the Mojave, it's highly possible our friend was too close to answers, and when he returned for a third time, he was silenced by the government. There is an image from the search party of his phone that he had on the second hike out to the cave. The phone was found near the mine shaft where he started the video. I think it's highly possible that he was apprehended or killed by government agents, and his phone was planted far away from the cave. By true definition, this file is undetermined. All of these theories could be true, but we will never know the true outcome.
This video was huge for us. We had finally gotten all the answers we wanted to the question that made us start this entire channel. Who is Freddie Freaker? The night we wrote this will go down in debunk history as one of the craziest things we did in our early days. It was a stroke of luck that Jiff was able to get into contact with the creator, and the ending of this video is still so peaceful, it really ended the saga of our first couple videos.
This video marked the first ever time where I actually was able to get into contact with somebody regarding a specific case, that being Kevin Leto, of course. And I still remember how insane and impossible it felt that very first time. Definitely something I will never forget. It was also the first of 3 entire videos we made in one day, which is something Sepp and I still talk about to this day as being our craziest night of working on videos together ever.
Since our first Freak video, a ton of stuff has happened. This would include a return of Freddie merch from the guys at Oni Plays. And more importantly, we actually talked to the creator of Freddie Freaker himself, Kevin Leto. We'd like to address something. After talking to the creator, we have noticed that basically everything we said in the last video was wrong, with a few exceptions. About a month ago, we received a comment about a Freddie Freaker Facebook group on Kevin Leto's Facebook page. Without hesitation, Jiff raced to the scene and joined immediately. His first question was simply, who actually created the puppet, and if he could see a recent picture of Freddie, and Kevin obliged. He said that him and an unnamed co-owner hired a Hollywood creature effects guy to design and mold the puppet. We know him as Patrick Rom Simmons. Leto explained the actual lore of the Freddie character. He said, "The big ears came from the big ears I had and dealt with growing up, which perfectly contradicts what Simmons has said about why Freddie has large ears. As part of the storyline, we created that Freddie's big ears gave him the ability to hear distant space signals from his planet and had picked up the sounds from MTV, and they didn't have music on his planet. The music naturally had Freddie starting to dance, and all his alien friends thought he was a freak, because they couldn't hear the music nor understand the strange back and forth motion he was doing." He finishes it all by saying, "So who created Freddie Freaker?" Leto explains how Simmons basically stole all of Leto's intellectual property and claimed it as his own. Leto gives a finishing blow to the question. "Thanks, Jiff. What many aren't recognizing is that without the story first persona, without the funny MTV commercial we produced ourselves, intentionally designed to be completely non-professional so it would stand out, and viewers would say, 'What in the world?' and it would get locked in their minds forever as an unforgettable TV commercial. The funny names for the character and the freak phone, the party-style program on the 900 line that enabled great content creation by the callers and fans. Without the investment we made, without the catchy lyrics and the music we created, and without the specs and colors and creative guidance on what we wanted Freddie to basically look like, then without all the final tweaks, with all that, Freddie Freaker wouldn't be Freddie Freaker." Jiff's second question was about the merchandise we mentioned in the previous Freak video and the other Freaker toys. Leto said that toys were planned, but he was preoccupied with the 900 number, so Freddie toys were saved for future projects. Jiff's final question to Leto was, what was Star West Entertainment? Well, Star West was Leto's entertainment and telecom company, so the phone line was part of Star West and the merch was LA Toys. Since this Facebook was a group chat, Jiff wasn't the only one asking questions. The Freak Phone's purpose was the first questions answered. You can make funny recordings, rap tunes, places to hear other recordings, leave a message for Freddie, tell something freaky, in Leto's words, anything and everything. One question was about the second commercial. First of all, we briefly discussed the second commercial. We didn't have the footage, but we do now.
And now it's the Freak Phone!
In case you couldn't tell, Freddie isn't in the commercial, and since the star character isn't featured, there are many questions, so Leto provided us with answers. He said, the other version was a test to see which would pull in callers, Freddie or the Shadow People. Someone then asked who won. Leto responded with,
It's the Freak Phone, and here's the party freak, Freddie Freaker. Freaker.
One person asked whether or not Leto had plans to revive Freddy and the Freak Phone. He said that yes, the Freak Phone will be back, but since AT&T doesn't do 900 numbers anymore, they're creating a new system. Our final question was simply, who sang the theme song? And I and Leto can simply answer, Stan Bush.
Wonder how you keep going. It's the Freak Phone, and here's the party freak, Freddie Freaker, dancing new sensation.
I think I could finally say Freddie Freaker is debunked. We've gotten all the answers to the questions, we found out everything. Who made Freddy physically, a bit of Freddy's lore, who intellectually licensed Freddy, the merchandising, what LA Toys was, what Star Wars Entertainment was, what everything about the Party Freak was. Before this video is over, make sure to check out the official Freddie Freaker merch store. You can get yourself a Freddy t-shirt, a Freddy hoodie, a Freddy shower curtain, and of course a Freddy bedspread.
And don't forget the Freddie Freaker dog tag.
This idea had been floating around the internet for a while, and not many people had touched on trying to debunk the video's legitimacy, so we did our best to scope out what we could find. This is our first video that had voice acting in it besides just Jif and I, and has been a staple of the channel ever since.
As the second of 3 videos we made in one night during the summer at my house, as Sep said, we had the idea to actually use more voices in it, which came from my family, which was definitely my favorite aspect of the video at the time. Outside of that, while I didn't push anything forward necessarily editing wise, I do think the videos started feeling a little bit more stable than they did before.
Before we start this video, I want to issue a warning for anyone who is sensitive on the subject of suicide. If you suffer from depression and have suicidal thoughts, please call the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. So who is this Christine Chubbuck? Well, for those who don't know, she was a news anchor in the 1970s, centered in Pensacola, Florida. She committed suicide on camera, and we believe to have found that lost footage. On February 21st, 2017, a YouTuber by the name of Alex Robespierre uploaded a video titled Christine Chubbuck Suicide Original Video 1974. Before this video, it was already widely known that Christine had committed suicide on television, but footage was never seen until now. Now I'd like to talk about Christine. Christine was diagnosed with depression and battled it for many years. She had also attempted suicide before. Her depression stems from she could not hold relationships, and went on to say she only ever had 2, the first of which her serious lover died in a car accident. Coworkers said she would deny compliments, and she constantly criticized herself. A week before her suicide, she joked with the lead editor about bringing a gun and killing herself on camera. No one was fazed by this potential warning because of her dark sense of humor. Her alleged final words were,
"In keeping with Channel's 40s policy of bringing you the latest in Bloods and Guts, and in living color, you are going to see another first attempted."
The video is a 25-second, staticky, black and white VHS recording of the last moments of Christine's life. But the real mystery behind this video is if it's real or not. This video of the alleged suicide on camera is not real. Yes, the suicide on camera did happen, but this is not the original video, and there's so much to back it up. Christine's old boss surfaced on Facebook and had this to say about the video.
The only camera present was the studio camera, and the second it happened, that camera was on a full shot of her. This was a one-camera show, and for those few who actually saw it on air, it was much closer up. But to anyone else, this would appear authentic.
So the video is not real, but why does the untrained eye believe this video? Well, if you have a scary and shaky enough recording, and a believable enough actor, it can be easy to fool the standard audience who is not familiar with the newsroom norms. Also, the shakiness can be accredited to it being 40 years old, and if the video was real, it would be in that kind of condition. So this file is debunked, but where is the real video? It's out there somewhere, and maybe soon it will resurface on the internet.
At this time, for some reason, I was obsessed with the Max Headroom show and totally fascinated by the TV intrusion that featured the Bizarro Max. I'd watched Wang's video on the topic and was able to find slightly more information that warranted us making our own video. This was also my first face reveal with the intro of me playing Max Headroom. This one was a ton of fun to put together, and I still love to revisit our interpretation of me as Max.
This was the final of the 3 videos we made on our legendary night, and this one I think definitely stands out among them, specifically because of that beginning and end. I had one of those cheap pop-up green screens at the time, which never got any use, until we realized that it totally could for this video. Since Seb did show his face and that was something we didn't necessarily want full on, we filtered the video pretty hard and gave him the Max Headroom sunglasses, and I guess it worked.
Hi, and welcome to Debunk File.
My name is Sep, and today we're going to be talking about the Max Headroom incident. Before this video starts, I want to explain who and what the phenomenon of Max Headroom actually was. Max Headroom was the first CGI character and was widely popular throughout the 80s and even appeared recently in the movie Pixels that came out in 2015. So even 30 years later, Max is remembered as shocking and exciting audiences of all ages. Now back to the video. Now the Max Headroom incident is a well-known hacking that occurred on WTTW Channel 11 during a Doctor Who rerun, but most people don't know about the first broadcast. The Max Headroom incident are actually 2 intrusions on television in 1987. The first was a 20-second silent clip on WGN-TV Channel 9 of a man in a rubber Max Headroom mask and then 2 hours later, the infamous hacking was flashing over hundreds of people's screens at 11 p.m. This 90-second clip featured the same man in the first clip with the same rubber Max Headroom mask, but this one featured another participant. In this one, the man in the mask actually spoke in a very distorted and static way, similar to the way the real Max Headroom would speak. The masked menace would say things like, "I think I'm better than Chuck Swirsky," or "frickin' liberal," and even humming the Clutch Cargo theme song, an old 60s cartoon. And Chuck Swirsky was an old radio announcer. The mystery and interest in this incident is not just the strange broadcast or the mumbly words, but the reason that the man behind the mask and the hand behind the fly swatter were never caught. Even 30 years later, these two and anyone else involved are still at large. There are some theories about who could be behind this broadcast. The first and biggest suspect is a man identified as Jay. In 2010, a Reddit user posted a story claiming that he knew who was behind the intrusion. He states that 2 brothers that he named Jay and Kay were very into hacking in the early 80s. He also noticed Jay's odd behavior and almost dark and awkward sense of humor. The main thing that tipped off our narrator was that Jay was talking to someone at one of the frequent house hacking parties that Jay was going to do a big hack that he just had to see. When the original Reddit poster saw the broadcast, he noticed similarities on how the masked Max acted and how Jay acted. He also pieced together that Kay's girlfriend was the woman with the fly swatter in the clip. So I guess that's it. The mystery of the infamous Max Headroom hacking has been debunked first, here on Debunk File. No, it's not done just yet. The Redditor came back 5 years later and proclaimed, J and K are excluded from the incident suspects. He says that it is impossible for this to have been an outside job, and no matter how talented J and K were, they couldn't have pulled it off in 1987. So if it wasn't Jay, then who was it? Some people think it was Eric Fournier, the maker of the also pretty creepy Do the Hand Clap video, and many others featuring his own characters.
Shay? Are you still doing that hand thing? I heard you're doing the hand thing today. God, what is that? Shay, what is it?
Many people are led to Eric because the man behind the mask had similar motion and humor to Eric's web show, and the woman behind the mask in his videos could have been the woman with the fly swatter. But since we know it was impossible for it to be an outside job, he's also exempt from this mystery. Even if it was him, he passed away back in 2010, so we wouldn't be able to get a clear answer now. This 30-year-old incident may never get solved. With so many variables and people involved, the fact that it has to be an inside job and so much more leads me to believe it might be impossible to solve this mystery.
There isn't much to say on this one. We got to jump on our lovely pal Momo right when she started to gain public notoriety. Being scared of going down the clickbait rabbit hole, the fact that she was so popular and warranted a video from us worked out so well, and she still remains as one of the most iconic internet things of the 2010s.
The most specific thing I can remember about this video is that it was the first time we were really able to jump on a then trending mystery, which was something we always wanted to do, and it definitely wound up benefiting us. We also were able to find Momo's statue origins during a time where it was actually still relatively unknown, in YouTube videos at least.
Momo is a very odd file. The origins of the image are shrouded in mystery. A lot of people claim it started on WhatsApp, but none of this is confirmed. The first interaction with the image was on WhatsApp. Supposedly, if you contacted the number, you would receive some very disturbing texts or images, and even death threats. But again, all of this is still unconfirmed, and the original number will not reply anymore. The true mystery is who made the sculpture and who is behind the WhatsApp, and we might have a suspect. The Instagram Nanaku, a Japanese-run page, has posted the first setting of Momo back in 2016, 2 years before it started to circulate. The number on the WhatsApp is a Japanese area code, which might lead us to suspect Nanaku is behind all of it. It would also make sense that she made the sculpture, because she seems to be very artistic and eccentric based on her other post. There does seem to be a few issues here though. For one, she doesn't have any other sculptures or 3D art, and the biggest breakaway, she says she didn't make it and mentioned something called the Ghost Gallery, a seemingly spooky traveling art show. When you look at the Ghost Gallery Facebook group, the closest thing there is to a sculpture is this. Most stuff is just contemporary 2D art. There is another lead. A comment on the original Momo post states that the sculpture is named Motherbird and is on display at the Vanilla Gallery in Tokyo, Japan. The creator of the piece is called Link Factory, and if you look it up, it's all true. So I guess that's it for our pal Momo. It was just a strange sculpture taken right from the gallery and put right on the WhatsApp to creep people out. As for the WhatsApp, it's clearly just a prankster, and Nanaku is innocent, so we definitely debunked the mystery of Momo.
This entire video was just throwing ideas at the wall and seeing if they'd stick. The topic we chose was one of our we have no ideas, so all the goofy new things we tried didn't end up stinging as hard. Even with such a small topic, we still managed to not research it properly and got tons wrong. In this video, you'll see we used a voice changer, which is something we had talked about doing before, but the audio that came through was horrible, and altering it was an option that we wanted to give a shot. In this video, you'll also notice we used character models for the first and last time. I don't regret these ideas because we would have never really known if we didn't try it, but it is iconically our worst video ever made, and I think that in turn makes it one of our best and most rewatchable train wrecks.
To me, the funniest part about this disaster of a video was the fact that despite it being so bad, just because it had so many experiments and ideas in it, it actually took me longer to edit than basically every other video near it. In many ways, I still can't fathom what we were possibly thinking with this, and it still blows me away how polite the reception was to this all.
If this is your first time watching this masterpiece, then please enjoy.
Hi and welcome to Debunk File. My name is Sep and today we're going to be talking about the channel K8H5WU3.
Now, if you haven't noticed, a very obvious thing in this video is that we are testing out character models. And we do definitely want to know in the comments if you guys are on board with this. If you are, please leave a comment, and if you aren't, we would definitely love to hear why.
This strange channel came to our attention from someone called Moustache. He commented on our Max Headroom video that he found a channel that he wanted us to debunk. The channel has 191 videos that are all the same. Each one is 15 seconds in length and all show the same thing. 49 senators, all in alphabetical order, and it all ends with Russian text translating, "Who's the main one? Ask anything." One thing to note is the missing state is Alaska. We do not know why, but Alaska does in fact have a senator. We originally thought the video's numbers were just the numerical order counting down from 2165, but if you dig a little deeper, you will find that the numbers have a mysterious significance that we cannot explain. I tried to plug them into the Polybius square, with no avail. For those who don't know, the Polybius square was a cryptography, or a way to make secret codes. It was invented by the Greek scholar and historian Polybius. If you know of any other code deciphers, please be sure to try them out and let us know. When you search up the channel link, you will find a name, John Doe. When you click on the name, it will take you right back to K8H5WU3I's channel. As most people know, John Doe is one of the most common names, and his counterpart Jane Doe is also a very common name for identifiable people. And Jane is actually a part of Batman's Rogues Gallery and the Arkham Asylum Living Hell storyline. So John Doe is the old channel name, and it was probably picked to show anonymity and spookiness. So this file is a complete mystery, and we'd really like your guys' help to try and solve it. If you have any leads or ideas, please contact us at Debunk File on Instagram and at TrueGIF on Twitter.
This was the first video ever not to be written by either GIF or me. It was actually written by an old friend of the channel. Meatsleep is still the perfect ARG. While it doesn't get the notoriety it deserves due to Marble Hornets being the most famous, this is a ridiculous second place. It might have just been us, but for a good while we were convinced there was a possibility this channel was genuinely run by a madman.
As Sep said, this was the first ARG we ever covered, and at the time we were simply so unfamiliar with ARGs that the majority of this video surrounds whether the channel could actually be real or not, which may sound hilarious today, but back then we never saw anything like this. Because of that, this is one of the final times where I remember genuinely getting scared by a channel. Despite me of course being happy that I learned so much more about these types of channels after it, a part of me does miss the feeling of not knowing.
Now before this video starts, I want to issue a warning. The imagery in this episode is graphic and could be considered very disturbing to some viewers. YouTube is a monolith on the modern day web, with almost 300 hours of footage uploaded to the site every minute. YouTube has become home to some very strange and disturbing content over the years. After all, among the thousands of Minecraft Let's Plays and reaction videos, something sinister is bound to slip through the cracks. For those who venture to the weird side, away from the prying eyes of big budget producers and censorship laws, internet horror is able to take fear to the next level. Very little is known about the series for sure, and while the channel is currently inactive, the legacy it left behind had many viewers scrambling for answers, or simply keeping the light on at night. Some thought it was an elaborate art project, others believed it to be the cryptic ramblings of a deep web cannibal kidnapper, but no one knew what was coming next. The series contained 93 videos total, but for the sake of brevity, this video will cover a few of the videos, but we heavily suggest you check the full series out for yourself. It would be interesting in seeing a full analysis of the Meatsleep series. Feel free to like the video and leave a comment letting us know. The eponymous Meatsleep channel was created on March 28, 2014, posting their first video, 4/9, on the same day. Which featured a series of short video clips of a dirty, cluttered bathroom, and a series of highlighted letters of computer documents which spell out Soomkin, an anagram of new skin, a reoccurring phrase throughout their videos. The Soomkin moniker has another meaning, but that will be discussed later. The video culminates in a jump scare featuring a fully blacked out eye accompanied by a jarring noise. The follow-up video implies from posters and advertisements that the victim comes from a hospital in Canada and was likely there for treatment for depression. It's implied that the treatment involved was a lobotomy, a procedure to remove pieces of the frontal lobe to treat mental illnesses. But whether this was in the hospital or at the hands of Meat is questionable. Fears of what new skin could mean are confirmed in the follow-up video, Ingrate. The video depicts a dirtied basement in a similar state of disrepair to the bathroom, with various items strewn about the floor, including a dirty toothbrush and what appears to be old bedding. A narrator informs the viewers that
You live here.
and
I gave you a home.
and chastises the victim, saying that
You're ungrateful.
hence the title. The video ends with what appears to be an animal looking down the basement stairs at the victim, likely a cat or a dog, who is then shooed away as the door is slammed shut. The following video, which translate to, "He has removed a tooth from him," with the first few symbols being related to dentistry, depicts the captive's painted fingernails reaching out from under a door, and a series of pulled teeth. The videos continue in a cryptic fashion, with far more disturbing imagery, like found footage of dead body in a park, and a scene where a very suggestive looking piece of meat fries in a pan, all pointing towards the idea that the murderer, referred to as Meat, is a cannibal kidnapper who dumps his victim in public places when he no longer has use for them. Or so it seems, until the rest of the facts are taken into account. For someone coming across a Meatsleep video out of context, these videos are incredibly convincingly real, but the more the viewer investigates, the more the threads of the story begin to fray. Earlier in the video we mentioned the phrase Soonkin. While the anagram Newskin relates to Meat's sinister nature, Soonkin has another meaning for the users of 4chan's paranormal board, X. Videos by a mysterious user known as Soonkin on YouTube were passed around the board before the creation of the Meatsleep channel, but as of March 20th, 2014, the channel was deleted. This, however, did not stop archivers from re-uploading the videos, which can still be found on YouTube. There are 7 known Soonkin videos, although an 8th video was called out as being fake by Meat themselves, and a 9th video was created as a joke. The original Soonkin videos were later reposted to social media site VK under new, more disturbing titles than the original Soonkin 1, 2, 3, etc. The Soonkin videos 1, 3, and 5 were re-uploaded by Meat later, under different titles, again confirming the relation. Meat's channel also has several linked channels as well, Ewan Falls and Jordan Nickum. Falls' channel is simply a collection of tragic news clips, which seems unrelated but likely contains some undiscovered clues, while Nickum's channel had a single video called Sick Puppy Crying for Help, where she was trying to raise funds for her sick dog. As far as evidence shows, the owner of this channel was not aware of Meat's existence, and was terrified that a serial killer was somehow linked to her, leading her to shut down her Kickstarter and remove her social media. Meat also has a Twitter account that has been suspended, but the account's tweets are still visible on the forum, cataloged for those interested. They mostly contain YouTube links, along with what appears to be nonsense tweets and some other cryptic retweets, likely to give viewers hints to figure out the story. But wait, what kind of killer has a Twitter account? If Meatsleep was simply a series of contextless videos uploaded to YouTube, the incredible vagueness of it would lead to more people believing the story to be true, but the addition of social media accounts leaves something to be desired in terms of immersion into the story, although such suspensions of disbelief are necessary when participating in an ARG. While Meat has removed all videos on their channel except for the aforementioned circle, some of the last videos ever to be uploaded to the channel, No More and Answers, gave credence to the fact that this was truly a work of fiction, with No More initially thought to be some sort of ruse to throw fans off the trail, stating that the entire story was written by a series of dice rolls, but the last video, Answers, confirmed it for sure, citing the names of the creators, which of them ran the Twitter programs used to edit, as well as the answers to every question on the AMA. The team participated in on Reddit. One could say that the true horror of the series is the terrifying lengths the fans of the series went to prove the validity or invalidity of the series. The creators cited in Answers that a solid part of the reason that they stopped creating the series was due to the fact that a few of the fans are bona fide psychopaths. They stalked people in real life, they accused people in person of being Meatsleep, and that they couldn't continue to create their series if it was causing actual harm to people in the real world. Meatsleep became a far deeper abyss in looking into the human psyche than the creators ever could have imagined, and they knew it had to end. From the evidence presented, we can confidently say that Meatsleep is officially debunked. While it is an incredible piece of fiction, it is in fact just that, a work of fiction. Again, if you'd be interested in seeing our analysis of the full series as fiction and what we think the full story is, please like this video and leave a comment to let us know.
I've always loved history, especially World War I history, and this ghost story seemed to be a perfect fit. It was a fun one to put together, but ended up being fairly short and lackluster since the story didn't have too much meat to it.
Pretty much everything Sep said here was true. I remember around this time beginning to get a little frustrated that no matter how hard we tried, Our skill level at the time basically made it impossible for us to stretch videos out very far, and I always saw this one as being one of the biggest examples, and of course much later on, we would truly give a World War I subject our true time.
A month after the war broke out, trenches dug on both sides where mud, bones, and blood met in the middle, a place described as hell on earth, no man's land. But something far more sinister than dead bodies lurked in the fog, the Hellhound of Mons. Now if you don't know, a hellhound is, well, a hound from hell, but in more detail it is a demon in the form of a dog. World War I was filled with more horror than an Alfred Hitchcock film, and adding an actual demon into the mix isn't going to help these poor soldiers stuck in the mud. The Battle of Mons was actually the first major battle the British Expeditionary Forces were in, and from then on, Britain was a fierce and major contender throughout the 4 more years of the war. This story originated from bodies that would disappear overnight in the trenches. Soldiers from both sides were also stricken with fear at the sound of a spine-tingling howl from the aforementioned hound. Even 100 years later, there has never been a logical explanation. The part about it being a hellhound came from the soldiers' superstitions that a war on this scale could open up hell and release one of Satan's minions. There was another theory that a German scientist experimented on dogs during the war to get the upper hand, and this failed experiment somehow escaped and ended up on the battlefield of Mons. This second theory could make sense since Germany was doing all they could to win the war and expand more territory, but what doesn't make sense is how the experimented on creature would escape without being noticed or caught and make it all the way to Mons, Belgium without being killed or even captured. These two theories cannot support a mystery as big as this. Like I said, we're going to have to call this file a mystery, as there is so much to explore on this creature.
This was the first ever video where I was actually the one to write it, and on top of that, it also served as a huge moment for us where we finally got over the hump and actually made a video that was longer. Out of all the ARGs we've ever covered, I still find this one to be possibly the most unique, as I have certainly never seen one even remotely similar to it, so it'll always hold a special place for me. And to this day, I still hope that we can eventually make an update.
From the start, this was all Jiff's video. I remember watching all of the videos for reference while recording and from what Jiff showed me while he was working on it. Even now, I don't think I still grasp or even understand the complete timeline of Playground.
Telling stories through the world of the internet has always been something that is very popular, especially scary ones. Creepypastas were, for years, some of the most infamous forms of internet horror storytelling, but more recently, there is now a new kind of storytelling that has become very popular, and that is ARGs. An ARG is a story that takes place in the real world and is fueled by viewer interaction. They usually are in video format or social media websites. We've even covered one before, and that was Meatsleep. Like mentioned before, there is a multitude of ARGs throughout the internet, but out of all of them, Playground could possibly be the most fascinating. In May 26 of 2016, a YouTube channel by the name of The Remnants of Playground was created, along with a forum that we will get into more later. A day after the creation of the YouTube channel, the first video was released, titled The Remnants of Playground. This video is completely in text, and it basically explains that the owner of the channel, who was referred to as the protagonist, explained that he was once part of a diminutive internet group known as Playground. The group consisted of 5 people, and out of those 5 had camcorders, where they made videos that they would share around with each other. He goes on to explain that he was the one without the camcorder, and the rest of the group was unaware of his presence. He also says that what he saw, he never forgot. The group was active between the years of 1999 to 2003 before disbanding, and apparently he never heard anything from any of these members since. He goes on to say that he might be the only person in the world to have these files, and says the purpose of this channel is to share the things that he saw, but at the same time, he explains that some of these videos get so bad he can't even post them on YouTube. A couple days later, the first true video release, titled Scott01. In a description of each of these videos, there is a note that shows the original title name, just to give you an idea of when this video took place, and in this case, it's 2003. In this video, the man that is talking, who is Scott, basically introduced himself, explaining that he was a boys' soccer coach, implying that he no longer is one. Throughout the entire video, he seems to be in a very strange type of denial about the situation. Throughout this video, he sits in the bleachers and coaches a team that doesn't even exist.
Overlap and let's get this practice going. Okay, let's get a scrimmage going on here. The sun is going down. I'm telling the boys to come on in. Come on in, practice is over.
After that video, the channel didn't upload again for a full month, until a video titled Update Video 1 released. This video begins with protagonist thanking everybody for 70 subscribers before getting into the important stuff. He basically explains that he doesn't have all of the files in one place yet, since there were a lot of videos, and basically explains that this is in combination with his busy schedule, has held him back from releasing new videos. Normally none of this would matter, since we're 2 years past all of this, but the most important part of the video follows. He explains that to hold us over for the next video, he made a paste bin. In this paste bin, he explains some info about each member of the group. He explains that in the infancy of Playground, there was only member 1 and member 2. He states that member 1 was a very weird guy, but somewhere inside, he was a good person. Member 2, on the other hand, was not. He defines member 2 as being a morbid person and the most deprived of the group. He even refers to member 2 as the antagonist of the story. Down the line, members 3 and 4 came along, both recruited by member 1, and that was to be the permanent size of the group, meaning protagonist is obviously number 5. He ends the note saying that each member has a certain series, and that more videos are on the way. Later that month, the beginning of a new series was released, titled For Cameron. The original files show that this was the one from May of 2000, obviously making the series much older than the aforementioned Scott series. With the series being titled For Cameron, it is implied that the main character is not Cameron. This is shown because throughout this video, he basically reminisces on the memories he shared with Cameron. The way he talks about Cameron insinuates that Cameron has passed away.
This must be the grade he was talking about. That thing's covered up. Cameron, do you remember when we used to hide down there? It wasn't all overgrown. Do you remember? Down there we read comics and things.
The following video is the return to the Scott series. In the first video, Scott seemed to be in a strange type of denial about everything, going as far as coaching an imaginary game, but in this video, he seems deeply hurt from the firing of his job.
Am I allowed to get my ball back? These bleachers aren't as good as the ones over there. Just saying.
At the end of the video though, he says, "I deserve the coach, and I will be back."
I deserve to coach this team, and I will be back.
After that, there was another hiatus until September, where in the span of a week, Scott 3 and 4 came. Scott 3 starts off noticeably different than the last one. In the last Scott video, he was deeply hurt by him no longer being coach, but in this one, he seems really happy again.
Oh, the sand, it's like a beach. Oh my god.
He starts acting like he did in the first video again, all happy and in denial. For example, he coaches an imaginary team again.
Kick the ball. This is a good time. I get to sit here and watch the game going on.
But the video takes a very peculiar turn. He declares that he has a deal for the head manager that he just can't refuse.
I have a deal for him, and a deal he can't refuse. But you know, I have nothing against the guy.
What he means by that is unknown. He mentions something about not wanting to go to town, and at approximately 3 minutes into the video, some text appears on the ground saying, "I'm just a cool guy." This is incredibly odd because this video is supposed to be from 2003, where editors weren't as widespread as today. Another argument could be that the protagonist edited it in. But again, why would he even do that? He then starts talking to a manhole in what seems to be like a rehearsal for what he's going to say to the head manager about getting his job back.
Was there a deal? I have a deal I pose to you. If you want.
By far the strangest part of the video is the ending. Scott zooms in on a mask saying,
"My face,"
before the camera blacks out twice, with the video ending with him dropping it.
Okay. Guys, you keep going on the game.
This mask is incredibly odd and actually becomes somewhat of a theme throughout the videos, and we will talk more on that later. Scott 4 came next, which is definitely the darkest and at the same time most intriguing video that is on the channel. For starters, the date is incredibly odd. The date of this video is 2004, even though the group disbanded in 2003. Again, we will discuss that later as the video in itself is exceptionally odd. The first full minute of the video is just Scott running around the field at night. Because it's so dark you can't exactly see why he's running or where he's going. A little bit after that, he turns on his flashlight revealing text in red that clearly says, "Death." About a minute after that, his hand appears and has blood all over it, and some other substance. A minute after that, he picks up a newspaper that was undoubtedly made by him, but the weirdest part is what it says. The newspaper says, "Award-winning coach let go after strange files found on hard drive." These are unquestionably the files that were shared around in Playground, the files that protagonist explained as being so bad he can't show some of them. Following the aforementioned events, we see another hand-drawn flyer that was probably also made by Scott. This flyer says, "We love you, Scott." The video then ends with Scott crying. Now what followed was a ginormous hiatus. But don't think nothing happened, because in reality, a ton of things happened on the forums. Right when the 4th Scott video came out, protagonist said not to get your hopes up on seeing the 5th one. But the biggest thing that happened during the hiatus was the emergence of a channel named Former Adolescents. A board was created by protagonist saying that he was a bully and overall terrible person, but his YouTube channel has some very interesting goods buried beneath the surface. The video that put him on the map was titled, "The Remnants of Playground is not a good channel." In this video, he goes on to explain that Playground should be stopped, and that it's not a good premise.
It's got lies. It's a bad channel. So I'm trying to prevent a bad channel. Not a very good.
Throughout his videos, he is using Windows XP, constantly writes numbers instead of letters, and always talks about Playground. And this means something. He is 100% connected in some way. Pay attention to his voice, and you'll notice he sounds a lot like the same person in the Cameron series.
This isn't right. Wow, this is going over really well.
And seems to be stuck in the same time period as well, with evidence of himself still using Windows XP. Just finding out what Pokemon is, not knowing what an app store is, a video he made covering the hottest songs of 2003, and much more. When confronted by a commenter who said it is currently 2017, he replied with, "LOL, this guy isn't making any sense." There was also a 17-minute video called The Playground Rant, and this video is basically a Leafy parody and is instead talking about Playground. In this video, he says much of the same things he talked about in the first video, but the most interesting thing lies in the description. If you look in the description, you will see a paste bin. If you click the link, you will see a paste bin that says nothing at all except for Cameron with a question mark. Does this mean that Former Adolescents is the voice behind the Cameron videos? I would have to assume so. Why else would he sound so much like him and even know who Cameron is? Why would he be so mad at Playground posting videos of the group? Another thing that happened during the hiatus was another member of the group came out on the forum. His name is Sleep, and he had a very different attitude than the aforementioned Former Adolescents. Unlike Former Adolescents, he seems happy that Playground is spreading to the outside world, and is also a lot more open to talk than Former. When asked if he was a member of a group, he said he was. Near the end of 2016, a forum called Don't Do It was posted. A guy whose username is Don't Do It posted a paragraph saying, "Don't listen to him, don't trust him, don't do it." I know you like talking about him. It isn't worth it. Trust me, more people knew about this than he thinks. I posted a lot about it on forums back in the day. I even got a small following that kept tabs on my posting. Don't believe me? Just wait for the pig. Those were the worst. After the whole puzzle solving process, a few got really unlucky. Things were so different when everything was actually happening. Some got to see every last thing with their own eyes. Thank God I didn't. I wouldn't be here typing this if I did. That's why he's so evil. You have to understand. You have to. There's a reason number 5 calls him the antagonist. This is an incredibly strange post, but we will talk about it more later, as down the line it starts to make more sense. A month before Protagonist finally started uploading again, he put an update on the forum and some incredibly important things were on it. In this update, he answers a question we mentioned much earlier in the video, and says that why was the 4th Scott video set in 2004? He says that he isn't entirely sure, but he did come up with the theory. He thinks that Scott accidentally set his camera a year in the future, meaning all of his videos were really in 2002, and the 4th and presumably 5th took place in 2003. That being said, something way bigger was mentioned in the update. Over the months he was gone, he was talking to Sleep, who he confirmed to be member 3, and as it turns out, Protagonist was wrong about his presence being undetected. When he was there, secretly watching over each terrifying video that would be sent, the other members actually knew he was there, and they even allowed it out of some sick sort of pleasure that they had, a little spy to watch over these morbid videos that were sent around. He also mentions how former adolescence has constantly been harassing him, trying not to let the files get out. Despicable person, and calls him dangerous. This ongoing feud between the protagonist and Former has led many people, including myself, to believe that Former is member 2, the antagonist. Another thing to mention was the amount of series that got forum boards but were never released. Each series on the YouTube channel would get a forum board. For example, Scott and For Cameron would each have their own board, but when you look on the forum, there is at least 10 boards for different series that never saw the light of day. It only makes me wonder, what were they about? In July, the long-awaited return of videos came, the hiatus finally concluded, and the next video was For Cameron 2. If you remember in the last For Cameron video, he was essentially reminiscing on memories he shared with Cameron, but in this video, he seems to be in some sort of denial. Throughout the entirety of the video, he's waiting for Cameron, while constantly saying Cameron should be coming any minute now.
I'm just waiting here for Cameron. Just waiting for everybody here, you know. Got my old friend.
And of course, Cameron never shows up. This leads the other members slowly losing sanity. He starts cradling himself on the ground and his voice becomes squeakier.
Here, he's gonna be here any second. He's gonna be here any second. He's gonna be here any second. He's gonna be here any second.
Another very important thing to note is at one point in the video, he drops a pair of giant gloves on the ground. I have no clue what this means, but it reminds me of the mask in Scott 3. A month later, a new video came out, an intro to a new series called I Love You. On the forum, he states that this series in particular gets very dark, and he debated whether or not to even upload it. He says he hopes this series shows how evil and depraved some people can be, even if they have a friendly voice. As far as this video goes, not much actually happens, but there are a few things to note. For starters, this file shows that it was recorded in 1999, making it the oldest video yet. Another major thing to notice is, the character in this video wears a pig mask. This is definitely the pig mask that one post mentioned, the pig mask of the antagonist. If you listen to his voice, it sounds very familiar.
It's a friendly little place that I go, but I just wanted to test it out. See how it is, you know.
It sounds like the same person in the For Cameron series, which means it also sounds like Formal Adolescent. The wording he used in the forum post also stuck out to me. He mentioned that the series gets very dark, but the most important thing is the wording of evil and depraved. This is the exact wording he used when explaining member 2, the antagonist in the paste bin a very long time ago. If this is the same voice of Formal Adolescence, who has constantly harassed protagonist, I think it's safe to assume he is the dreaded antagonist, especially with the post saying the pig mask is the antagonist. About a month later, I Love You 2 was released. If you look at the original file, it's the only one on the YouTube channel without a date, as the original file says I Love You 2. Protagonist says this is normal, as half of the videos had dates and the other half didn't. Like the last I Love You video, not much actually happens again, but there is a few things worth noting. On the forum when this video was posted, he wonders how much footage is cut from the version he has compared to the one that was filmed. This is the only video with a clock on the side, which lets you know whenever there is a cut. There is a lot of cuts in this video, but since he really wasn't doing anything, I have no idea what would have been cut in the first place. The most notable thing in this video is that you can constantly hear the sounds of a little girl and her guardian playing in a nearby playground. Once he goes up to the playground they are at, he starts taping himself to it, and the little girl, who even gets into camera for a couple seconds, isn't even fazed by a kid wearing a pig mask taping himself to a playground. It's just really odd and something we probably won't get an answer to. But up to this point, the final video was released, at least so far as for Cameron 3. Unlike the aforementioned I Love You videos, this one has a surplus of things to talk about. The first minute of this video is him running around at night looking for Cameron. Around the 2-minute mark in the video, he looks at the sky and says it can't be night.
Oh no, 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 no. It can't be night. It can't be night.
It's unknown what this means, but there's obviously a reason he said that. A little bit after that, he starts sprinting, as if after something. After he stops sprinting, he says,
No, I'm not ready.
As if he's talking to Cameron. The camera falls over and then starts slowly moving back and forth. After that, the camera cuts to a view of the sky, then a view of the woods, a few times before zooming in on the woods with a jarring noise, ending the video. For some reason, the night is important to Cameron, and with the jump scare zooming into the woods, it makes me suspect the woods has an unknown significance to the main character, and most likely Cameron as well. So as far as the video goes, that is all that has been uploaded thus far, but there are still many things to talk about, and a number of questions that are still burning in the brains of many people who have watched their videos, the largest of which is, what is the deal with the 5th Scott video? A post was made saying that every series has 5 videos, meaning Scott, For Cameron, I Love You, and the other series mentioned in the forums that were never released all had 5 videos. We got all the way up to Scott 4, but there were countless posts about how dark the 5th video was, and that's why he can't upload it. One post in particular was incredibly interesting. Someone asked what the deal is with the 5th Scott video, and that protagonist actually answered saying that horrible video will never see the light of day. But for those who are really curious, I will give you this. He sent a link of 3-second audio which basically just sounds like Scott groaning. There's a lot of other questions like, why did every series have 5 videos, and can't you release videos explaining in text rather than what's actually happening? He did say in the intro video that he would do that, but it never wound up happening. There was also a couple reoccurring themes throughout the entirety of these videos. For starters, with the videos being called Playground, every video is actually in a playground field. The Scott videos are all in a baseball field. In For Cameron, you can see a basketball court, and I Love You is in a playground. There was also a theme of memory issues. Former adolescents still thinks it's 2003, and Scott is constantly on a baseball field even though he was a soccer coach. And there is a date screw up that Scott also had with the camera. I honestly have no idea what any of this means, but we could really use some help. Now I want to talk about everything we know about the members. Member 1 recruited every member, and unfortunately we don't have a clue who he could have been. All we know is that he was a really weird guy with a good heart. Member 2, the antagonist is the pigman who is almost certainly former adolescents, and most likely the voice in the For Cameron videos as well, as former adolescents had the pace been saying, Cameron? Member 3 is Sleep, who unlike the antagonist wants the videos to get out there and was open to talk to protagonist. Member 4 we literally know nothing about, and Member 5 is the protagonist. This file is definitely undetermined. While we did find out who more than half the members were, we never really learned that much about the series as a whole. There are still tons of questions floating about, and with the last video being uploaded almost a year ago, it is uncertain if we will ever get answers in the future.
During this era, Jiff and I were watching The Angry Video Game Nerd like crazy, and we wanted to do something similar to that style of content and do our best to throw some humor into a video. So we basically just took the urban legend story of Cheetahmen that was in AVGN's video and took it more seriously. This was such a fun one to put together and has such good energy and wasn't super dark, which broke up the really macabre last 3 videos, Meatsleep, Hellhound, and Playground.
Cinemassacre / The Angry Video Game Nerd is genuinely somebody that has shaped my entire life. And during this summer, and this specific time in particular, This was probably the most that Sepp and I ever binged his content and played retro games, doing it pretty much every single time we hung out, so it was only natural that we would make a video based on a video game mystery.
The Nintendo Entertainment System is a wild west of gems and flops. You have your classics like Mario and Mega Man, your duds like Fester's Quest and Bugs Bunny's Birthday Blowout, but nothing comes to mind more than Action 52. When the NES was nearing its end days in 1991, with their brand new console, the Super Nintendo, being out on the market, some NES games were still being made, games like Battletoads and Ninja Gaiden 3. But definitely the most infamous is the previously mentioned Action 52. Now, Action 52 is an unlicensed NES game that came in a very strange clear cartridge, different to the gray Nintendo norms. But the clear casing wasn't the craziest thing about this game. No, 52 games. That's right. On this single game lie 52 other games, including but not limited to Ooze, Sombreros, and Time Warp Tickers, where you play as walking fingers. You can't make this stuff up! Who can forget Cheetahmen? Cheetahmen was the star title on Action 52. So much effort and skill went into making this masterpiece? No, it sucks. Cheetahmen was completely shoved down everyone's throats when they bought Action 52. There was a comic that accompanied the game, plans for a toy line, and it was even the only game on Action 52 to have cutscenes. But even when it was in the spotlight, a mystery crawls beneath Cheetahmen. A planned sequel for the game was set to come out, Cheetahmen 2. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you feel about awful games. Set to come out in 1992, the games were lost, collecting dust in an old warehouse until in 1997, 1,500 copies were discovered as they made their way to secondhand markets, fetching prices up to $1,000. The strangest thing about Cheetahmen 2 is its lost levels, and that's what we're going to try to figure out. Now, the levels are accessible, but you have to be extremely lucky. That's put by Angry Video Game Nerd.
If a blue moon occurs on Friday the 13th and all the planets align, the game will actually start up on the missing levels.
The levels are not finished. They are glitchy and basically unplayable. When the third level boss comes around, after defeating him, you are stuck in limbo, as the game does not progress you to the next levels. There was a patch that was released in 2011 by Greg Pabich. He even put it on a cartridge. So I guess that's it for Cheetahmen. It was a very awful game that was never released, that had a few lost levels. This file is definitely debunked. The levels were really never lost, just extremely hard to find, even when owning the original, but now it has been fixed and the game is complete.
What an absolute blast of a video. It was a ton of fun to put together, and the mix between silly 80s commercials and a full-on hostage situation is one of the strangest stories I've ever seen. This video also came off the back of the AVGN fix, as Jiff and I were playing the Noid NES game a ton, which, in our humble opinion, is better than Castlevania, so take that how you will.
From an editing perspective, this was the most fun I had on an episode out of possibly all of them up to this point, and that's still the thing I remember the most fondly about this one. For whatever reason, I just had a lot of ideas, and I definitely think it helped this one out majorly, and were among my best edits of these super early videos.
Domino's iconic mascot, the Noid, hopped his way into our television screens on 1986, always trying to destroy Domino's delicious pizza.
It takes fresh baked quality to avoid the Noid.
The Noid was famously popular and starred in countless commercials. He even had his own toy line. He appeared in his own video game called Avoid the Noid,
and a much better game called Yo Noid.
The Noid was even set to have his own Saturday morning cartoon in 1988 on CBS, but the idea was scrapped on the idea that it was a marketing ploy and not an actual children's show with a plot. The Noid's appearance was quite odd. He had long bunny-like ears, a red bodysuit with a big N slapped right on his chest, presumably standing for Noid, weird shoes that meshed into the suit, a huge nose, and buck teeth. I'm willing to argue that the zany appearance the Noid had could be a reason for his success. He also only spoke in squeaks, giggles, and grunts. The Noid was done in claymation, and the ads were really cool and definitely worth a watch today. But whatever happened to this red-suited bunny-eared maniac? Well, many reasons could be attributed to why the Noid fell off 30 years ago. Granted, the Noid is a staple of 80s pop culture in the 2010s, but he did eventually fade away. No one has an exact reason to the Noid's decline in popularity, but one incident in a Domino's pizza in Atlanta could be the main reason the Noid's nonsensical reign of commercials came to an end. On January 30th, 1989, when the Noid was in its prime, a man by the name of Kenneth Lamar Noid, who was actually completely mentally ill, thought the Noid character and his pizza-destroying antics were a malicious attack on himself. Kenneth walked into a Domino's pizza chain in Atlanta and held 2 employees there hostage. Kenneth, who demanded the employees to make him a special pizza and a salad. He also demanded $100,000, getaway transportation, and a copy of The Widow's Son, all for ransom. After an excruciating 5 hours, Kenneth surrendered to the authorities. Kenneth was taken to court and charged with a multitude of crimes, such as kidnapping and a possession of a firearm. Kenneth was charged not guilty only on the account that he was mentally unstable. Kenneth was sent to a mental institution and eventually took his life in 1995. This whole incident is believed to be the main reason that Domino's pulled the plug on the Noid. But another controversy regarding Domino's and their Noid was going down. See, Domino's had a 30-minute guarantee or your pizza's free. The delivery drivers were driving as reckless and as fast as they could to deliver that pizza in under 30 minutes. Later it was changed to $3 off, but the damage and deaths this promotion caused didn't go unprecedented. The CEO claims that the 30-minute guarantee promotion, which was closely tied with the Noid and his commercials, was the reason they had to pull the plug on the jittery Noid. The CEO also says that Kenneth incident has nothing to do with it, and along with the guarantee, the Noid was just getting a bit old for some people. But no one could stop the Noid for good. Of course you couldn't. With 80s nostalgia running rampant, it was obvious the Noid would make his return, and he did. The Noid's first return to the spotlight was in 2009 when Domino's brought him back for a limited run of t-shirts, and then 2 years later, in 2011, he was Domino's Facebook icon for a little while. Many other times in recent history, the pizza crushing problem has made appearances in video games, TV shows, movies, and his favorite thing, commercials. So I think I can safely say that we have debunked the reason for the Noid's decline at the very end of the 80s, and I'm also really happy to see this guy return and make himself known in pop culture.
Ryoma was the first ARG that was genuinely a huge interest of mine personally. I have a love for Meatsleep and Playground, but Ryoma has and always will be my personal ARG video. The night Jiff and I worked on this one is one of my favorite memories from the early years. We were sitting in Jiff's room watching every Ryoma video and taking notes. It was around 2 AM, so the vibe of the videos and the collaborative effort trying to solve this wild ARG was super eerie.
Again, as I said with Meatsleep, because we were still so new to ARGs, while we did now know that ARGs weren't real, there was still a part of both of us that thought that Ryoma genuinely could have been, and so for that I do still vividly remember both of us actually getting a little scared when we were going through all these videos, which is a memory I will also never forget. For these reasons as well, this is definitely easily one of my favorites of the very early days.
A smaller channel on the far reach of YouTube, Ryoma was probably the strangest and freakiest ARG I've ever seen and that we have ever covered. Usually with an ARG, it spans from platforms like YouTube to Twitter to 4chan, but Ryoma actually stays within YouTube and tells its story perfectly for those who are willing to learn and listen. Ryoma is definitely different, and it seems to have ended with its last video being over 5 months ago, and since the channel only has like 20 videos, I'm going to run down each one and put together the story. On almost all of Ryoma's videos, there is a comment that says, "What's it like down there?" or a variation of that. The channel is definitely connected to Ryoma, but their videos are obsolete to the actual mystery. The first video is called My Dedication. It's a dirty house and it seems to be being searched by a man with the camera. If you have seen our Meatsleep video, which you should definitely check out, may I add, you will see a similarity in the rundown and gross looking house. This video seems meaningless now, but we will get into it more later. Another big theme that starts in this video is religion, with the description being a direct quote from the Bible. This theme lasts until the end of the series. The second video is titled 06052005.avi. This video seems to take place on June 5th, 2005. The video consists of a man who is breathing heavily and is walking quite fast until something startles him and he breaks into a full-on sprint. The video ends with a black and white face with a loud noise. This face does show up later, but the significance is still unclear. The next video is titled Chair Art Demonstration. The video is basically just a chair with what seems to be a brick on it. Later in the video, screams are heard and then dirt is flung onto the leg of the chair with hedge clippers. When watching this video for the first time, I thought to myself, is that what his dedication is from the title of the first video? The brick seems to be his idol of some kind. The video that follows is called Exciting Announcement. This video is a huge step forward for the story of Ryoma. All it is a black screen with some narration. The audio was extremely hard to hear, but after speeding it up as fast as we could and listening for like 10 minutes, me and Jiff conclude that it says, "My plan to expand," says something about father, probably about church. "She found the earth in which I gave frightening things are very interesting things that people excite absolutely everyone. We all love excitement, if it's an exciting thing." Yeah, it basically makes no sense, but if you can figure out what it says, definitely let us know on either of our social medias or in the comments down below. We now move on to probably the most important video so far, called Hard Road 2. It is unclear as to where Hard Road 1 is, but if it's anywhere as unsettling as this video, I really don't care whether it's lost or not. This video is filled with religious symbols like I mentioned back in my dedication. Then the video takes a turn for the worst. It shows a man all chained up with a bucket on his head. A man with a machete seems to be torturing him. Maybe the man running in 05.avi is Buckethead, and maybe the man he's running from is Machete Man. These are our first big clues to the story of Ryoma. Now we have Hard Road 3, which is a direct sequel to Hard Road 2, as the name insists. This video starts with someone starting a fire, which is definitely Machete Man, and then a cross is set on fire, in keeping with the religion theme, and then a man in a trash bag is crucified on the burning cross. And after the screams die down, the man in the bag is tossed into the river with a thud and a final scream. So Machete Man started the fire, and we can only assume that his victim is Buckethead, and he seems to have met his end. So far, the story seems to be about Buckethead in fear of Machete Man coming to get him until he finally catches up and Buckethead is crucified. The man running in 05.avi is most definitely Buckethead, running from Machete Man. And my dedication, if I interpreted it right, is Machete Man looking for something in his decrepit house, maybe a weapon to kill or hunt Buckethead. The video after Hard Road 3 is called The Fool's Almanac, and in this one we see a different perspective than just Buckethead and Machete Man. The video starts with the butt of a gun and a baggie of grass. I'm assuming the baggie of grass is supposed to represent marijuana, but it literally just looks like lawn trimmings. Then text flashes on the screen. It reads, "Jack is gone. The car turned over. I cannot. Oh God, Jack, no." But who is Jack? Is Jack Buckethead or another character we haven't met yet? Well, let's call Buckethead Jack from now on until something contradicts that. Well, this seems to be from Jack's friend's perspective, as he or she seems concerned about what happened to him, and what happened to Jack's flipped over car. The next video, Nightwalker, at first glance seems to be a guitar playing over some blue lights, but after watching this video a few times and knowing mostly how ARGs work, I had to take a stretch on this. So in this video, it's Jack's friend, again, waiting for the police to finish investigating Jack's flipped over car. Well, Jack's friend plays a tune, possibly Jack's favorite song, on his guitar. The police part comes from the moving blue lights, which are the flashlights, and sometimes you can hear static and talking coming from a radio. Cleaning Crew, the next video, is another direct sequel following Nightwalker. It is still the blue police light searching Jack's car. There's not much that expands on Nightwalker, but it is still an interesting entry. The next video, Audio Experimentation, is another short one that seems insignificant, with all it is heavy metal and a man leaving the house. This video might be our first glimpse at Machete Man in a rundown looking shed. There's not enough to really connect this to the overall story, but again, it is an interesting addition. The next video is titled Jack, which might make you assume that it's about Jack, but even after watching this 1,000 times, I still can't figure out who this is supposed to be. The video is set in the woods, and a man in white walks around until he collapses, looks at the camera, and then falls asleep or passes out. My theory on this video is that this is Jack after his car crashes. He leaves his car to find help in the deserted land and finally passes out with a lack of food and water, and then is approached by Machete Man. This will all make sense when I do a rundown later of what we've covered so far. The next video is titled Tuoma's Song, and it is one of the creepiest videos on this channel. The face seems to be almost zombie-like and eaten away on the left side, and the aforementioned song is unsettling too. The song is very Skyrim-esque with winds in the background. I'm going to take a huge leap and say the winds relate to the Jack video with him being in the cold, windy forest. But that's just a big jump. Story-wise, this video has really nothing to contribute except some creepy audio and imagery. The next video is called Announcement. An announcement for what? I don't know, but your guess is as good as mine. The video is quick, but it seems to show a body. This is undetermined, but if you look at it closely, it does resemble a body, possibly Jack's body fished out of the lake. Now the next video brings the story right back into the spotlight. The video marks the return of Jack with the bucket on his head and Machete Man full out playing the drums. The most interesting thing about this video is it shows someone chasing someone. If I knew any better, this was Machete Man's point of view of 05.avi. So now we have Jack's and Machete Man's point of view of their seemingly first encounter in the woods. The next video, 045, shows someone looking at a rundown house, and when entering it, it's only creepier and dustier on the inside. When it reaches its final seconds, the camera freeze frames, and has a weird filter and noise to accompany the screen freeze. The bio reads, "Up the mountain and down the hill, there lies a house as silent as still. Quietly he crept in within the dark hour, from crib to casket locked in a glower." I'm not quite sure where this poem of sorts comes from, but this time it surely isn't from the Bible. In the next video titled Walk, we see the return of the blue police lights and not much else, but it is nice to see the blue flashlights glow return. Perseverance is the following video, and it really adds more to the story. It shows movement, but it's unclear what kind of movement. It seems to be a stabbing motion if you speed it up. It is also coated in a strange red filter throughout. Distorted screams can also be heard, but you can hear a loud yell that sounds like someone saying, "Hail Satan." This is definitely a video of Machete Man stabbing someone. Maybe Jack. It is unclear as to who. Scars in My Head is the next video. This one returns with the red filter in the forest, and in this video we actually get to see an outsider's perspective to 05.avi, and actually get to watch both Jack and Machete Man run out of the forest. So far what we piece together is that Jack's car crash in the snowy woods. While he went to go look for help, he passes out and is awoken by a strange man in the woods. When the man notices Jack walking away from the place, Machete Man sprints after him, which also leads Jack into a full-on dash for his life. Unfortunately, Jack is caught, and after being tortured with a bucket over his head, he is crucified on a burning cross and finally killed by Machete Man. Now all of that is what me and Jiff have pieced together from the videos and clues we've seen so far. The next video, Servant to the King, is back with the religion theme right in the title, and it seems the blue flashlight police are back and possibly getting closer to Machete Man and Jack's corpse. Another pretty lackluster video, To My Children. It seems as it's just an overhead view of a bucket, but even that I'm unsure of. The Gateway is the next big storyline jump for Ryoma. It takes place in an unknown basement or abandoned underground something, but the name The Gateway and what's inside this place are the most interesting thing about this video. The name seems like it means more than Ryoma want you to know. The name of the video definitely has something to do with the gateway to hell, as when whoever is behind the camera enters, there is a slew of crazy occult symbols like devils and pentagrams made with spray paint, and also Nosferatu, but still, it's a mystery as to who is behind the camera. If I could theorize and make a jump, I would have to say it's Machete Man. Maybe he killed Jack as a part of a ritual or to be accepted into a cult, being that the way he killed Jack was in a very biblical way, representing Jack as Jesus and Machete Man as the devil. Also, this could be the "what's it like down there" comment means. He could very well be referring to hell and the place that Machete Man is in. The next video, titled Relaxed, is another empty video that just shows the dark night sky and the constellation the Little Dipper. If you can connect this to the story, be my guest in the comments. See Him follows Relax, and it is a strange one indeed. It shows a man with a sack on his face, curled up swaying with a guitar riff on the background. At first glance, I automatically saw this man as Jack, but after thinking about it, it is definitely Machete Man, maybe going insane or feeling bad for what he did to Jack. Either theory, I'm 100% sure it is Machete Man. Another video with the date 03.avi. This video has Morse code in it, and without a very helpful comment on the video, we probably would have never figured this out. The comment says the Morse code translate to, "The humans will pay for what they have done." This could easily be Machete Man's ramblings, but I also interpreted it as maybe Satan contacting Machete Man and telling him what to do, or maybe if Machete Man is part of a cult, it's part of their chant, but that's highly unlikely. I see it as Machete Man going insane and hearing Satan's voice. After 03.avi, we have a video called Beloved Daughter. This video takes place in a forest, and the commenter who usually leaves the "what's it like down there" comments. But in this one they say, "I bet you miss it," in the mound. It sounds like he's referring to the dead, and if the title means anything, maybe Machete Man lost his beloved daughter, went crazy and found Jack in the woods while Machete Man was fully consumed by grief, and Jack was caught at the wrong place at the worst time. In the next video, ER555, we return back to the red filter. Whether it takes place in a forest or not is unclear, as the camera jolts and shakes the whole time until it ends. The most important thing to the story in this video is the description. It reads, "I am so lonely, I miss my daughter." It is now very clear that Machete Man has lost his daughter. Maiden of Faith takes us back into the woods, and it is accompanied by cloudy and pretty much unreadable text, but another commenter comes in and saves the day. The text actually reads, "The Maiden of Faith waits, Kobayashi 1985, and we see another cross in this video on fire. I do not think it is actually another crucifixion because I don't see anyone on the cross. Also, I did a lot of digging to see what the video means by Kobayashi 1985, but it means nothing significant. The only thing to happen in 1985 that concerned anyone named Kobayashi was a boxing match, and it has nothing to do with the story of Ryoma. Again, if you have any idea what it could mean, definitely tell us in the comments." Masato Repent is the third to last video on Ryoma. It's a 9-second garbled mess, but it does have some interesting text. It reads, "Your pain, your smile, your comfort, your lies." This is also leaving me baffled. I have no idea who this is directed to or who's saying it. The second to last video, S. Riku, is also in a forest or a garden, but the most interesting thing about this video is the stone baby face. Maybe this represents Machete Man's daughter, but it is never specified how old she was when he lost her. The name of the video, S. Riku, was also the name of a gang in Japan that would perform gas attacks in the subways of Japan. It's disturbing, but it really has nothing to do with the Ryoma story. The final video, I Am Lost, is another glitchy and confusing mess. Japanese is heard throughout, and it says, "Do you like me?" in Japanese over and over again. Maybe this is Machete Man talking to the cult leaders or to his dead daughter. A lot of these final videos are unclear, but I'm going to do a full story breakdown right now. Machete Man has lost his daughter. Consumed by grief and literally losing his mind, he contacts a cult or turns to Satanism after his hatred of God for taking away his daughter. The cult or Satan says that to redeem himself, he needs to perform a crucifixion, and at the same time, a man by the name of Jack is driving down a snowy road when all of a sudden, his car slips, crashes, and flips over. Jack is fortunately unharmed, so he leaves his car to seek shelter or find a police station. While he is wandering around, he finally collapses and passes out in the forest. He's awoken by someone lurking around in the woods, and when Jack becomes fully conscious, he sees a man with an axe. In a hurry to get out of the woods and in a paranoid state, Jack starts to speedwalk quietly away from the man with the axe, who we know as Machete Man. When Machete Man notices Jack, he starts to run after him. Scared and confused, Jack starts to run as fast as he can, but it was enough, as he was captured by Machete Man. Jack had a bucket placed over his head and tortured until Machete Man was ready for the crucifixion. While all this was happening, Jack's concerned friend finds his car and contacts the police. They get very close, and even if they found Machete Man, it would have already been too late. When the crucifixion was ready, Jack was burned at the stake and thrown into the river. Machete Man goes down there, as that creepy commenter suggests, to contact Satan or speak to the other cult members. When he realizes what he has done, Machete Man loses his mind and aimlessly wanders the forest searching for his daughter, as Satan or the cult promised she would return when he crucified someone. This is all how I interpreted the story of Ryoma. After watching their videos multiple times and doing a lot of research and trying to put the story together, as with most ARGs, it's tough to get a final answer, but I think we debunked it good enough to call this file undetermined. Hopefully I'm Lost isn't Ryoma's final video, and we finally get the answers we want.
For my second written video, we tackled another gaming mystery, this time being all about bootlegs, and this was a suggestion that was actually given to us as well. As far as bootlegs go as a whole, they're definitely something that I would like to talk about again, so we will see when they will come back to the channel.
An early days attempt at covering a full bootleg company. A really fun video to put together, and watching the footage of these games was definitely a highlight. This unfortunately started the dark age of our channel with this video and the second installment of Who Inspired, which I promise is eventually coming back.
The world of bootlegs are a pretty fascinating place. For those who don't know, in the gaming world, a bootleg is a type of unlicensed game produced in someone else's copyright. For example, there is a Sonic game on the Super Nintendo, and the creator of the game of course didn't have the rights to use Sonic, but did it anyways. Bootlegs aren't particularly great because sometimes you can find the absolute worst of the worst. Like in Lion King 5, where you can receive a game over, you get to see Simba himself. But in other cases, bootlegs can actually be good, and more often than not, these good ones were made by a company known as Hummer Team. Hummer Team was a bootleg game company that astonishingly lasted for 18 years before finally closing its doors. The games that they made were always ports from the more advanced consoles. For example, Aladdin was a game on the Super Nintendo, so they remade it onto the NES, complete with the surprisingly great graphics and great music, which is always something they nailed. With all that being said though, there's a ton of mystery surrounding this company, and today we are finally going to talk about all of them, and hopefully answer all of them too. The first mystery, and probably the biggest mystery, is what happened to all the members of the group after Hummer Team closed its doors. This is a big mystery because if you search up their names, oftentimes you won't see any new information, not even on the creator of Hummer Team himself, Hummer Cheng. So today we are going to try and find some answers, and we had to do some major digging. Hummer Cheng was a game designer and music composer who got into the business in 1989, where he worked at Sachen. Sachen was an unlicensed game company famous for making the atrocious game Little Red Hood. Hummer would only work on one game for them before starting his own company, Hummer Team. It was a small company with many of the members simultaneously working for other companies, the most common being C&E, standing for Computer and Entertainment. In the early days, the company was actually called Samari Team before they renamed it to Hummer Team. Then, they would have major success for a very long time before slowing down. They started slowing down right when the 64-bit era began, causing many members to leave the company, never to be heard of again. That being said, the company wasn't over yet, as like we said before, they continued all the way into 2010, where they made games for plug-and-play consoles and Famiclones. After they shut doors though, like we said before, none of these members were heard of again, but with some deep digging, I did find something about Hummer Cheng. A forum where a member of it apparently emailed Hummer Cheng himself. He said he had to translate it to English and basically interviewed him asking him questions. He asked 5 questions. When was Hummer Team formed? How many members did you have? How many games could you work on at the same time? What happened to your team after 1998? And before Hummer Team, did you work for any other company? Hummer did not answer all of these questions, but the reason I don't think this is real is because these are all questions that could be answered just by looking at the wiki. There's a lot more questions, but it's like we said before, they can all be answered by the wiki. Now for the other members, Kathy Chen was one of the main members. She made the Hummer Team logo, but after doing tons of research, I literally couldn't find anything about her. And the same goes for basically every other remaining member of the company. So as far as trying to figure out where all the members are today, we really can't, but if you guys have some information, we'd love to see it. Another mystery is the aliases that Hummer Team worked with. Many people think that these aliases could actually be Hummer themselves, since some of these companies work on Hummer and nothing else. In order to debunk this mystery, let's first take a look at all these aliases. JY Company is far and away the most common company associated with Hummer Team. They basically published all of Hummer's games until 1998, where like we said earlier, their relationship ended for unknown reasons. JY's job was to request and provide funds to Hummer Team. But is this alias actually Hummer Team in disguise? Definitely not. JY had a history before Hummer Team came around, as they started in 1989, where they released pirated versions of licensed games. They also had a pretty infamous multi-cart titled Ball Series 11 in 1. It wasn't until 1994 when Hummer Team started developing games for them, and after 1998, they were involved in a scarce amount of projects without Hummer Team before shutting its doors. So with all that being said, I think it's safe to say that JY Company is definitely not Hummer Team in disguise. Another alias is Konysoft, also known as YokoSoft. They were a video game developer and publisher. For their publishing career, the only games they published only were both for Hummer Team. They published and developed only 4 games by themselves, which makes me believe that it is in fact possible that this company could be Hummer Team in disguise, despite no actual proof being there. Ka Sheng was another alias, but this definitely isn't Hummer Team, as this is also a very well-known company, so we can't count them out. There is a few other questions surrounding Hummer Team, the first being, why was Hummer Team also called Samari Team? This is a very common question with this very simple answer. Samari Team was their publishing name, and Hummer Team was their developing name. This is also the same reason Konysoft is also called YokoSoft. Another question is what happened to all these lost games? As you can see, there was a lot of Hummer Team's games that never saw the light of day, and unfortunately, I have no answer to this question. So this file is undetermined. As this is the case with every undetermined file, we were able to figure out some important things, but we were unable to find out everything.
This was another much lesser known ARG that we decided to cover, and this one was mostly about complex puzzles and codes that, in all honesty, we had no clue how to figure out, but there were still moments in there of actual creepiness to keep it all afloat.
This idea was something we really wanted to do, but at the time we had no idea what to do. Between the two of us, this era is commonly known as the dark age of Debunk File, when we genuinely thought our time had come on YouTube. It was a stellar ARG that was handled so poorly by us trying to quickly post content to stay up in searches.
Like usual, we are returning to the weird side of YouTube. The mystery we are bringing forth isn't as huge and as grand as previous files, such as Ryoma and Playground, but this one is still very strange in its own way. Like us, when you stumble upon this channel out of nowhere, you would be extremely weirded out. As you can see, the first video was just a bunch of flashing numbers. I had absolutely no idea what to think when I saw this video, but I digress. The following videos were very similar to the first, as they had various symbols that would flash on different areas of the screen. If you fast forward to a month later, you will see how much more insane these videos become. In just a few months, a symbol marathon became something that looks like it would belong with Ryoma. At this point I was completely stumped. I had no idea what the point of these videos were at all, but when I found out he had a Twitter, GIF was sent to go message him. The first question he asked was simply, "What is the point of these videos?" The response said that these videos were all a puzzle. He could have just left it there, but he gave us even more hints. This puzzle is called Independence of Justice, and he said it's about politics, psychology, language, scientists, mathematics, nature, free will, etc. He used multiple different languages such as binary, hexadecimal, octal, and way more. He also said that the puzzles get progressively harder, which does make sense. The overall theme of the puzzle is that he wants everyone to collaborate with each other, like family, hence the title, Independence of Justice. In conclusion, we were able to figure out that this was a puzzle, and we were also able to figure out what the puzzle meant. But solving each individual video, nope, we are leaving that to you guys, so if you find anything significant, let us know, because of everything we just mentioned, we're gonna call this file undetermined.
This video really brought us out of the dark ages and was the hit we needed. This video was really sad to put together. As a dumb kid, I did actually enjoy behind the meme, as cringy as he was. The video seemed to be very raw and everyone genuinely thought he'd lost it and was resorting to something horrible. But under a veneer of the ARG format, he was able to come out and speak on what the videos actually meant and actually returned to YouTube last year for the first time in almost 5 years.
To this day, this was still one of the strangest moments I can recall happening with a larger YouTuber. At the time, a lot of people truly did seem confused as to what was going on, but we were able to make a video that I genuinely think holds up pretty well for the most part, which is not something I say about a lot of these other super old ones.
Before this video starts, I want to issue a warning. If you are uncomfortable with suicide and talking about it, please click off the video, and remember, there's always help for anyone at the suicide prevention hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Now it's time to get into the video. Behind the Meme is a meme channel, as it states in the name, where he looks into the history of where that internet meme came from. Starting in 2016, Behind the Meme became the center of a lot of controversy when his content started getting a ton of hate and he would get countless "kill yourself" comments and many other terrible things said to him by the edgelords in 2016. YouTube in 2016 was a wild west of just memes and edgy videos, with Leafy running the forefront, and Behind the Meme being subject of many people's torment. Some of his videos include What is the Dab and What is the Roblox Death Sound meme, which many people considered cringy. BTM started what seemed to be a small ARG on September 20th, 2018 with his video titled 1, The Beginning. The video starts with someone walking in the parking lot. Just gonna assume this is BTM. Then BTM is walking inside a supermarket, and then the camera pans to the alcohol section. I'm not sure how much the alcohol that he buys matters, but he buys a bottle of Smirnoff vodka. Maybe it'll come in later. I take to the comments and find one that says, check 118 for a skull, and it implies that BTM might commit suicide. The second video, 2, the future. The video starts off in a kitchen where the Smirnoff is poured into a shot glass multiple times, and then a new room with a bunch of pop stars are shown, and then BTM starts talking about the history of the channel, and to get some things off his chest, and talking about the hate he would get. BTM even says that his love of memes and YouTube has dropped due to the hate he would receive.
Doing something that you enjoy and then seeing such a negative reaction from strangers, it started to get to me. It started to really get to me at a point, to be honest, and then I took the break. You know, I took like 4 months or whatever it was off, and I didn't do anything with YouTube. I just lived life, and I was started to become happy. I was happier than I was when I was making videos.
He then shows the viewers around his apartment, and then goes back to his pop star wall, with many superstars pasted to it, including Tupac, Pee Wee Herman, and even Ethan from H3H3. BTM shows off his 100,000 sub play button. He shows us his 6ix9ine poster that greets him when he walks into his house. When he goes into his room to grab his car keys, a book titled How to Talk to Anyone, which might mean even the hate on this channel is really affecting his mind and his personal life, but that could just be a stretch. The next video, 3, the middle, starts in a pitch black car, and then he starts to talk over him driving. He asks the viewers,
Do you guys, like, sometimes when you're driving, see like a hot chick and like almost get in a car accident because you like look in her direction and her direction isn't in front of you?
Which personally has never happened to me, but I guess it's a common occurrence for our friend BTM. He then talks about the place where he thinks, like an overlook. He talks about how each person that drives by has loves and desires, and how each person is somebody, and how even everyone can be a mean person, and that maybe some of the people driving are the ones that left terrible comments on his videos.
And I just think they're all people coming and going to various places. We all have dreams, we all have desires, we all have loves, we all have passions. But at the same time, all these people they all have angry tendencies, they're all bitter, some of these people might be the pricks that are online leaving negative, hateful comments, and, you know, I just wish that everybody was more positive, and just, if everybody was more positive, just everything would be a lot better. You know, we're all humans, we're all just trying to get by.
Really, at this point, it seems he might do something horrible to himself, or somebody else. Life isn't easy is a big theme he stresses, which is true. Everyone struggles to get where they are, and I don't think BTM should have to go through this, but hopefully his positivity will prevail. The second to last video in the main series, 4, The Past. The video starts by him walking into his house, greeted by his 6ix9ine poster. He laments about how he can't even afford a real house, and he's almost 30.
Welcome home to the house, apartment. You can't even afford to be in a house, and you're almost gonna be 30 soon.
He drinks more of his vodka and even cheers to the viewers. He talks more about how this channel was supposed to make him happy, and was making him happy, but the hate was really getting to him. It seems to be through tears, he says.
Like, nobody even cares, you know? I don't care anymore.
Everybody hates me. Sometimes I think I hate myself. And personally, I know debunk videos are supposed to be all fact and none of mine are just real emotions on the matter, but I really hope Behind the Meme is okay, and that he knows that this channel and our community is here for him. He asked why the people who left hate couldn't be nicer to him, and just to give him and his channel a chance. A really good quote to take from this video is, "People fail to remember that we're all people." BTM goes back on the topic of how much making videos and being a YouTuber made him so happy, and how YouTube also brought him so much pain and sorrow from all the terrible commenters. Even in his past, he talks about how he would be happy and it would be stripped away, and that he was never allowed to be so happy. He laments about not having friends or family, but only having haters on his YouTube channel, which is something no one should have to go through. The video ends with him saying,
"Let's play a little game. Everybody likes games. Let's play a game."
Which couldn't mean anything good, and I am very concerned. The fifth and final video was taken down, but has been re-uploaded since. This is a warning for anyone who is triggered by suicide. Now it has come to my attention, the final video is fake, but it is still very unnerving to watch. It starts with BTM crying and entering his room. He grabs a pistol while repeating,
Let's play a game.
he holds the gun up to his head while saying, "This is what everyone wanted to see," and he shoots himself. Now this video is not real, and there is an explanation for all 5 parts on BTM's channel, where he talks about how none of the videos are actually real, but it is a good representation of what he went through a while back, but he is doing much better now. This file is debunked, but I do want to say after watching these go down, fake or not, remember, there is always someone here for you, and you are not alone. If anyone is dealing with suicidal thoughts, please contact the suicide hotline at 1-800-273-8255, and that this community is always here for anyone.
This was our first ever Halloween special, and was finally another video that was actually pretty lengthy. To this day, Jordan's House is one of my personal favorite ARGs we have ever covered, and I think the genuine journey it took us through in this video could not have been more perfect for Halloween.
Such a good start to what would be the formative video of Debunktober. It didn't exist yet, but in spirit, Jordan's House was the prototype. With Jif at the reins on this, what I recall from Jordan's House was the phenomenal music that I still listen to today. Jif and I still always quote The Purple Puppet.
Jordan Underneath was a channel that would review horror games, darker TV shows, basically anything that was dark. His videos garnered a solid fan base and were definitely great videos, but about a year and a half ago, he uploaded one skit type video. He was in front of a black background and there was a puppet he interacted with. It was peculiar, but still neat. Fans thought this was one-off skit and the reviews would be back, but they weren't. He made 3 more of these skit videos until he disappeared from them entirely, leaving only the dolls there, and that is when Jordan's House began. Calling this an ARG wouldn't be entirely correct. There's no audience interaction at all, but it still has elements of an ARG, being the story very hard to connect, with most people not being able to figure it out at all. These are incredibly high quality videos with him doing all the effects, puppet work, and sound design, all of which are absolutely top notch. But with all that being said, let's get into the videos. The first video is titled That Place Over There. We weren't able to see what it has to do with the rest of the story in the greater scheme of things, but the most important thing in Jordan's videos is introduced right off the bat, and that is metaphors. Jordan is somebody that has been very open with his mental illnesses in the past, and these videos all explore them in some way. Pretty much every single video is a metaphor and they are usually related to what he is feeling. The metaphor in this video is being forgotten. That place over there could be anything or anyone that gets forgotten. On the brighter side, another important thing is introduced in this first video, and that is dark comedy.
Like all things that were once living, they ultimately became replaced by emptiness.
Wait, what does that mean?
They died or something.
Oh.
During a serious video like this, having comedy in there is great, especially when it is genuinely funny like it is here. He's honestly one of the best at mixing horror and comedy that we have ever seen. Horror and comedy are usually mixed horribly, but Jordan shows how great it is when it's done right. The next video is titled Counting Sheep. Like the first video, this one isn't important on the overall plot, and the reason these first few aren't important is probably because he was still getting the feel for everything. But like the last video and pretty much every video, there is another metaphor. In this video, we see a teacher trying to teach these 3 creatures the best way to fall asleep, and that is counting sheep. When they start counting sheep, the video goes berserk. I saw this video as Jordan and others with mental illnesses, rendering them sleepless at night, so as a result they try counting sheep in an attempt to hopefully fall asleep, and when it doesn't work, they go crazy and frustrated, which is why the video freaks out at the end. The next video is titled Happy Birthday Liam. This video begins with the creature ascending out of a box before text shows up. If you pause and read all the text, it is basically trying to help him, or the audience, or whoever Liam is, get through whatever trouble they are in. As a side note, the name Liam is never ever mentioned again. I have no idea what that means. The following video is one of the absolute biggest and best videos on the entire channel. It is titled My House. Right off the bat, we are introduced to one of the most reoccurring characters in the series. He is nameless, but perhaps that's for the better. The video starts simple, with this monster introducing himself.
Hello.
I hope you're having a wonderful, carefree, great day.
He also shows his house, and once you enter it, you will see that it is all black with stolen random items all over the place. Not long after this, we cut to two young children that have clearly been kidnapped. They talk in fear for a little while until the purple monster butts in. He teases them for a little while before eating one of them.
Do you think our parents are looking for us? They're not looking for us. They're dead. No, they can't be dead.
They're dead, and we're never getting out of here.
There has to be a way we can escape. We have to be dreaming.
Be quiet, it's gonna hear you.
How come I never get to be part of conversation? Oh, are you trapped in a cage? Let me fix that for you.
Let me and my sister go.
Let you and your sister go? But that wouldn't make any sense. Everything in my house belongs to me.
The other escapes and quickly realizes that this house is endless. The way that person mentions how tiny she is compared to everything else makes me feel like Jordan feels this way about himself.
This place is endless. I feel like an insect. Or a speck of dust. Floating through the endless dark.
Small, like a speck of dust. It's possible I'm wrong on that one, but it just seemed like oddly specific wording to me, and it really stood out. She goes on to say,
Sometimes I'll find a place where I think I'll be okay, but it never lasts.
This could also be something Jordan feels. The monster goes on to show where he goes to listen to music, culminating in one of the funniest moments in the series.
This is where I hang out when I want to hear some music. Let's hear some music. Wow, music sucks these days.
The video ends in an incredibly interesting way. This speech that the monster gives, it has to be how Jordan feels or felt at this time. I can't think of any other explanation for this.
When you're a strange individual, it may be easy to never leave your house. I never leave my house. I feel cold.
In fact, I think this entire monster is a personification of Jordan. Now, obviously Jordan doesn't eat children. Well, at least I hope he doesn't. The speeches and lines this monster gives are definitely from Jordan's heart. As far as the metaphor for this video goes, we could be reaching with this one. But the way we saw it, his house was a literal purgatory. This monster felt like he was in purgatory, so his entire house is purgatory. Black and never ending. The following video is this tree, and it is a very interesting video indeed. It has nothing to do with the story, but this one is definitely about Jordan, or creators in general. It shows a pair of hands that just made a tree, an amazing creation, but they keep wanting to add more. As they do this, the tree progressively gets worse and worse, before he just destroys it for good. This is definitely a commentary on inventors and creators. They will make something, but they keep trying to make it better before destroying it. This could possibly apply to many YouTubers as well. Another pretty important video follows, titled, I'm Here to Help. It introduces a reoccurring character, this dinosaur. He's a psychologist who can't feel emotions.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and just feel so depressed you feel you can't get out of bed? I don't. But don't worry, I'm here to help. I am a reptilian creature from a faraway dimension who feels virtually no emotions. And it's because I feel no emotions that I have decided to become a therapist and dedicate my life to helping you feel better.
He thinks he is helping people, but because he can't feel, of course he doesn't, even if he thinks he does. However, the video does end with him feeling.
Well, I've had a pretty productive day. I got to experience a lot of emotions today.
This video, You're Beautiful, makes absolutely no sense right now, as it's just an underwater fish talking to you, but down the line it actually becomes incredibly important, so we're gonna have to explain this one later.
How did you get down here?
This next video is the longest and biggest video in the series. This Is My Girlfriend marks the return of the purple monster, who, like the title says, has a girlfriend. This is not just any girlfriend though. This monster's loneliness convinced him to create a monster from the items in his house.
It's a perfect day to spend some time with my girlfriend. This is my girlfriend.
The scariest of which is the girl that escaped him. These items all combine to form a girlfriend, but it doesn't move or talk or do anything. He just moves and talks with it as if it's actually living. After a while, he concludes that what he is doing is boring, which he then looks at the camera and asks,
Would you like to see some more girlfriends?
It then pans in on some more trapped creatures in a moment reminiscent of the last kidnapping scene. He interrupts them and snatches one.
Hey babe, you ready to go? Oh, I've so been looking forward to this.
Somewhere down the line, the monster leaves for a moment, prompting the kid to scramble away, exactly like the last video. The kid mentions how endless this place is, and also, like the last time, the monster talks about his loneliness.
I feel lonely. I feel very lonely. I feel very lonely. I'll have to do something about this.
Towards the end of the video, the kid does eventually find a sink, and this is also where the monster finds him. The monster says not to fall down the drain, it's only a place for unwanted things. This is something I still do not understand. So if any of you have a theory about where this sink goes, please leave a comment below. The video ends with the monster throwing the boy into the sink, and then the monster silently goes off and messes with the popcorn. Alone. Nightwalk is a video that seems insignificant now, but it introduces a character that will be important later. I didn't find a metaphor or anything, the character was just doing exactly as the title says, for 30 seconds. The following video, This Is My Angry Face, returns to the purple doll one more time, and this one he just shows his angry face. That's it.
This is my angry face. I'm not myself when I have my angry face on.
This is one of the videos that we don't really understand the purpose of, so again, if you have any theories as to what this video means, please leave a comment below. Feel Good Today is the return of the dinosaur psychologist. After the end of the last one, he is now able to feel things. That's about all that happens in the video, but it got me thinking, is this dinosaur a metaphor for a psychologist Jordan saw? I'm not saying his psychologist had no emotions, but every single patient this dinosaur touches, he just doesn't understand them. Maybe Jordan feels that his psychologist didn't understand him at all. Come Here for a Second is a pretty short, meaningless video, but that does not mean it's bad. While it doesn't have anything to do with the story, I feel like Jordan was trying to test how good he was at building tension or something, and well, he was pretty damn good at it. This video was suspenseful, and it was great.
Just for a second. I need your help with something. Come on. Just come here for a second. It won't be long. I just need to ask you something.
No, Earthy Boy. This is a huge video. It starts off with the boy we saw in the Nightwalk video, asking this furry creature for directions, where he then points to a building. The place he goes into also looks like the Nightwalk video, and since both videos had trees, I'm assuming he's just on Earth right now. If I'm right with the purgatory theory though, I also thought that the place at the beginning looked like heaven. I wonder if there will be a hell in this world. A while later, he stumbles across this creature who tells him to take the elevator and reach the top floor. He eventually finds the elevator, sees a bunch of monsters, and finally makes his way to the top floor. He eventually finds his way to a room where he sees what seems to be a queen. He asks, "Who are you?" and the door just closes, ending the video.
Who are you?
Remember when I asked if there was gonna be a hell in this world? Well, here it is. He is dark red, starts off in what definitely looks like hell, with 3 demons talking to someone they killed. They also say, "You are gonna die anyways," and I don't know what this means. By far the absolute most important part of the video was what they say at the end. They say, After watching the video, my take on it is that the girl at the end of the last video after that door closed, maybe the girl was about to kill him, but the demons just killed them themselves and brought him to hell, where in order to be alive again, he needs to talk to the fish. This also raises another question. What is that fish? What is its purpose? Before You Reach the Ocean had a very interesting title, and I thought we'd get a lot of information out of the video as a result, but literally nothing happened. And when I say nothing happened, I mean it! This whole video is just views of the land of hell, that's it. I Watch You Sleep starts off in a first person's perspective, where something is sneaking up on someone, with the intent to watch them sleep of course. That entity is actually the purple monster, and when the stalker sees it, it says, "Ah, it finally found a place to rest. What a precious life form, how it travels at night, watching its captor sleep." The video ends with the screen glitching and saying, "Signal lost." This was another video that we really didn't understand at all, and this stalking entity is never ever seen again. The following video is titled Dark Red, and it's literally a music video. Jordan wrote a song, and that's the video. Now I'm pretty sure it has nothing at all to do with the series, but it's still cool that he made a song, and it isn't even too bad. Head North begins with text appears saying, "Help is here, and you are not alone. Visit our small settlement for assistance and peace of mind." More text appears saying, "Try walking. You have escaped and are, mostly, free. You should have a much more physical body now." We then cut to a first-person view of slow walking, before more text comes up saying, "Because you are vulnerable, dissolved being, you are in unfathomable danger. Try to lay low in unpredictable landscapes like this. Avoid getting snatched, hurt, changed, or taken advantage of." The boy eventually finds a robot who says that he picked up their signals and finds out that he's looking for the ocean. He says he can help and advises him to come inside. He then says there are many absurd, chaotic beings out there, but there are ones also like you, simply passing through, waiting for what comes next. I feel like that could possibly be a metaphor for something, but I can't put my finger on it. The next video, titled "I Have Sand in My Eye," shows a dried up fish who says that this place used to be underwater before the sea dried up. It seems that the kid who has been looking for this fish for so long that by now the sea has dried up and the fish is dying. At least that's my take on it. From here on out, it gets confusing. Starting with this next video, Take a Break, it seems as if they don't have anything to do with the series. They just seem like videos Jordan made for himself. The art style is completely different. Even the character is slightly changed. The series changing like this with a video called Take a Break could not possibly be a coincidence either. This video is probably him saying that he wants to take a break on the series, and also doubles as a message that sometimes you just need to slow down and take a break. After this Take a Break video, none of the videos had anything to do with the series, and they even stopped featuring that character in it. Kind of like Jordan, when he himself stopped appearing in his videos. Maybe he's getting ready to start a new series, or maybe he's just taking a break. Whatever it is, Jordan's house was a fantastic watch. This file is undetermined, and that is due to a couple of reasons. We feel like we did in fact find out more about Jordan's house than many other people. Most of what we said was merely speculation, and just a few actual answers. Another reason we weren't fully able to debunk this series was that it didn't get to end. It seemed to be really going somewhere, with the boys attempting to find the fish. But then he took the break and the videos changed. One thing we were able to completely find out was that almost every video was a metaphor, and these videos were just snippets of Jordan's world. The most incredible part about the series is that Jordan completely created his own unique world here, and it just leaves us wanting more.
I'm sure most don't know, but I collect action figures as a hobby and always wanted to do a great toy mystery. I love He-Man, I love vintage toys, and I love just weird mysteries, so this one was a perfect fit. The theme on this video was top notch, and it's still one of the most current feeling of our older videos.
This was one of the most important videos ever for us editing wise, as for the first time it fully gave us an entire theme / aesthetic to use, which is still how we approach videos today. While it was far different than the themes we use now, it served as the blueprint for everything. In this one, we took our halfway retro aesthetic and ran with it, and whether I actually executed it greatly or not, the idea was based off the intro, so that it was like the entire video took place in that old retro computer.
And the masters of the universe. I am Adam, Prince of
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was a toy line that originated in 1982 that eventually spawned a TV show and has gained cult status over the years, with the vintage figures skyrocketing popularity and price due to the fan base. He-Man was a different franchise, as its hook was colorful and wacky characters packed with mini-comics that all had a special gimmick. My personal favorites being Stinkor, Master of Odor, and yes, he really does stink 30 years later, Trapjaw, an evil henchman of Skeletor that had interchangeable arms and weapons, making him an awesome toy, and Faker, the evil robotic clone of Skeletor made in He-Man's image to trick the heroes of Eternia, He-Man and Friends home. With He-Man having a huge fan base and people with huge He-Man collections, you'd think that every vintage figure would go counted for. But no, there was one figure dubbed Wonderbread He-Man by fans and collectors. The figure gets its name, Wonderbread He-Man, from many collectors recalling the exact same experience with the figure by getting it through a mail-away promotion through the bread company, Wonderbread. First appearing to the internet scene in the early 1990s, this He-Man figure had brown hair and wore a black armor variant worn by Zodak that came packed with the extra weapons and armor set, and he was equipped with a black axe and black sword that came with a Man-E-Faces figure promotion, where for a limited time he came with extra weapons. So Wonderbread He-Man's accessories are easy to pinpoint on specific sets and other figures, but where did his brown hair and brown loincloth black belt hybrid come from? Many people claim it was a custom, but when the figure's popularity skyrocketed, many other people remember vivid memories of owning the figure and playing with the figure during their childhood. When Wonderbread He-Man had reached its peak in the collecting world, collectors actually asked the former owners of Mattel, the creators of He-Man, to see if they could give a clear answer to whether or not this figure was real. Mattel said that they never had a promotion with Wonderbread and left it at that, but we aren't completely done talking about Mattel. Mattel was set to license figures from the movie Conan, starring good old Arnie, but when the toy manufacturer saw a pre-screening of the film, they were appalled at the nudity and violence, and they turned down the figure license for Conan. But Mattel still did see a market for buffed up boys' toys, so they decided to go their own route and create He-Man, who in design and nature was kind of a futuristic barbarian hybrid. Collectors speculate if Wonderbread He-Man is actually a Conan figure that made its way onto the market, but that theory was debunked by the Netflix documentary The Toys That Made Us, He-Man, when the creators talk about how no prototypes, let alone full painted figures, were made for the Conan line. Dan Larson of Toy Galaxy, who also did a brilliant video about Wonderbread He-Man, brings up the theory of the Mandela effect, which in my opinion is kind of the easy way out of people remembering something that never happened, but it is strange how so many people remember the figure, but so many other people don't remember it at all, including Mattel. In recent years, Wonderbread He-Man has gained cult status in the collecting world as being one of the weirdest cases of toy history ever. Even recently in the Masters of the Universe Classics line, Wonderbread He-Man got an upgrade, now named Wondar. He's a barbaric woodland man, and the figure even comes packaged with a little loaf of bread, a tiny nod to the original Wonderbread theory. We are definitely going to have to call this file a mystery. Just like in our Max Headroom video, this mystery is just too old to be debunked. With over 20 years of relevance, Wonderbread He-Man is one of the coolest and strangest mysteries in the toy collecting community.
At the time, this was definitely among the darkest topics we had ever covered. While I for the most part don't really believe in remaking things, as I'd rather continue to go forward, this topic did actually have a plethora of updates after we covered it, and that combined with our skills today make this video the only one that I've genuinely considered remaking in the future.
In terms of research, this was all Jif. It's still a bizarre mystery and was extremely eerie at the time and still is now. With what Jif said, I think Dyatlov Pass could absolutely make a comeback. With our modern lens of research and editing, and with all the new evidence we have, it could come back in a big way.
A little over 60 years ago, a group of Russian hikers all had the desire to climb Mount Ototorin. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov and his team of 8 experienced hikers embarked on their journey. However, the journey did not end well at all. Suspicions arose when the group was gone for way too long and investigators were sent down to the scene after the storms calmed down. What they found was a torn apart tent with most of their belongings still inside. They discovered a bunch of footprints from the team and they led to the edge of the woods a mile away from the camp. These footprints led to the first 2 bodies in the woods. 2 bodies were found next to the campfire, and despite the estimated temperature being -12 when they were there, the bodies only had underwear on. The 3 bodies were found including Dyatlov himself, and all these bodies clearly died of hypothermia. While it was incredibly odd as to why the first 2 bodies had only underwear on, the next set of bodies were just so much weirder. The next 4 bodies were found 75 meters down at the bottom of a ravine, and the cause of death with these bodies were completely different than the rest. One of the bodies had major skull damage, one of them had major chest damage, and the most gruesome of which was a body that had the tongue, eyes, parts of the lips, and parts of the skull bone missing. It's also important to note that these bodies all had moderate radiation on them. Now the mystery of course is, what happened? And thankfully we can be helped somewhat the absurd amount of pictures taken on the trek, as well as diaries that can help us piece together what happened. So on February 1st, the team began making their way through the unknown pass that led to Mount Ototorin. As they were making their way through, they were hit by intense snowstorms that blinded their vision, which caused them to travel up a completely different mountain, which has the nickname Dead Mountain. It was here where they camped and also where they perished. As for the almost naked bodies, investigators were actually able to find out that the other members took their clothes as they were already dead, which is of course why they were found with just underwear on. However, there is no answer as to what happened to the other bodies down in the ravine, but there are several theories. One of the theories is that they could have been killed by the Manzi tribesmen, but they have been described as being very peaceful, so unless these hikers really pissed them off, this theory is debunked. Another theory was that there was an avalanche. This would of course explain why the bodies were in the condition they were in, but that mountain has never had an avalanche before they went and since they went, so this is another theory that is debunked. The theory of the Menk, an ancient Russian Yeti, arose, but I mean let's be real here, that's definitely not true. The most compelling theory is that they were killed by a radioactive weapon. It might sound silly, but there is actually a solid amount of evidence towards this theory, because another group hiked nearby before, and they said that they saw strange orange floating orbs while they were out, and there is even a picture of one of these apparent orbs. The chief investigator during the incident said that he was almost positive that these orbs, whatever they were the cause of death of the 4 hikers down below. The USSR forced him to abandon this theory though, and the official cause of death was labeled a compelling natural force, which is also very mysterious. With the amount of time it's been and the strange amounts of damage on each body went through, we will never get a final answer. We want to believe the radioactive weapon theory, but that still doesn't explain the ripped out tongue. We want to believe that they were attacked by some sort of animal, but that wouldn't explain the radiation on their bodies. Because of this, we're gonna have to call this file a mystery.
And for our final video of 2018, we probably one-upped what I said last time, because this is still among the most disturbing cases we've ever covered. Editing-wise, to fit this topic, I played the majority of the music backwards, which I think made this video much scarier than it might already have been.
To wrap up our year, I only really have to say that Anneliese Michel is still terrifying and it's a hard one to revisit. One of our most straight up scary videos. That exorcism audio was awful to listen to.
Now, throughout history, there has been many documented exorcisms, but this one just might be the most interesting, at least to us. This is one of the most infamous cases, having inspired the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose, but its popularity does not take away just how terrifying this case actually is.
Hush, hush, hush. Here comes the boogeyman.
Anneliese Michel grew up in Western Germany and was Catholic. However, when she became 16, her life changed forever. She suddenly blacked out in school one day and then walked around dazed. Anneliese did not remember the event at all, but the friends and family said she was walking around in a trance. A year later in her room, she was found walking around in another trance-like state, and then she started shaking violently. This prompted her to visit a neurologist who diagnosed her with epilepsy, which was responsible for the seizure she had. After this visit, she began taking medication for her epilepsy. But after it failed to work for years, she was convinced she was possessed. Apparently, she would constantly hear the whispers of demons telling her to rot in hell and other terrible things. As it became worse, she talked to a multitude of priests about her demonic possession and if they could help her, but they all denied and told her to seek medical help. This is when it got so much worse. She started going insane, ripping all the clothes off her body, crawling under the table and barking like a dog for 2 days straight. She also ate spiders and bit the head off a bird. Her mother was absolutely freaking out, and they finally found a priest to attempt to help her. After much petitioning to the bishop, the priest was granted permission to perform an exorcism, but it needed to be kept a secret. 67 exorcisms were performed on Anneliese, and Anneliese believed she was possessed by 5 demons. And well, just listen to the names of these demons. We have Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Nero, and Adolf Hitler. Yes, apparently she was possessed by Hitler. All these demons fought to gain control of her body, and they would speak from her mouth in low growls. One of the exorcisms are even available on YouTube. Although it's unknown if it's real or not, the audio has a chance of being real, and since there isn't any crazy demon voices in the audio or anything like that, this audio might actually be real.
Ruhe gibt's nur dort, wo die Liebe ist. Im Namen deines seligen Jungfrau, im Namen Jesu, befehle ich dir auszufahren.
In the 10 months these exorcisms went on, Anneliese was frequently restrained from the priests while they conducted exorcism rites, but she slowly stopped eating and died at the young age of 23. The priests were actually charged for the negligent homicide and tried to use one of the exorcism recordings to justify their actions. Now the mystery, as with all exorcism cases, is of course, was it real? And like every other Exorcist case, I just don't know. It honestly all boils down on if you are a religious person and if you believe in demons, and that's a question that nobody has a bona fide answer to. That being said, this one definitely seems more authentic than many other exorcism cases in the past, and that's why we can't come away with a conclusive answer for it. So yeah, this file is still going to be a mystery, as the bigger question about this one is, do you believe in demons? If you do, there's a solid chance that you would think this exorcism is real, and if you don't, then you just don't. But since there is no legit proof of any of these things, it had to stay a mystery.
With our season over, I hope you guys all enjoyed this nostalgic blast from the past. We really had fun revisiting these and talking about small things that made ordinary seeming videos stand out a little bit more. We absolutely plan on doing this for all of our other years down the line, so please, if you made it through to the end and if you want the 2019 Season 2 sequel, please make sure to like the video and comment what your favorite video of 2018 was. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. If you like the channel, make sure to check out our social medias in the description below. Make sure to stop by our Discord, it's the best place to chat with us and hang with fellow debunk enthusiasts. Of course, if you'd like to support the channel a little bit more, head on over to our Patreon at Debunk Plus. Only $1 a month and you guys get access to everything, videos early, script PDFs, whatever random stuff we decide to put up, and more. As always, my name is Sep from Debunk File. See you guys next time. Bye.